Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 324. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, socially distanced and then some from Johnny V.
And
just where I
emotionally
belong.
distanced, and just God,
when something
so
feels
far
so
from my
right.
heart.
Yeah. We are glad you guys are here to join us here on Tuesday night, November 17th. Wow, we're a full 2 weeks post presidential election, and not the coronavirus is almost gone. I think I was told via some vaccines or something. Everything is going great. I think we also have maybe even a Simon Lizotte birthday today. So happy birthday to him if that's the case. Chris Dickerson, our USDGC champ, yesterday with a birthday. Zach Melton, I think the day before. So pretty incredible.
Maybe even Seth Fendley from the Disc Golf Pro Tour. His was recent.
Pat Govang, who's a mastermind behind the scenes on so many things. So happy birthday to everyone who's been celebrating those in the last few days and, well, anytime this year. Good job. Tonight's show, as you've been clamoring and waiting for, we hear the cries of people saying, we're so sick of our elite level pros that are constantly winning tournaments over and over again, the pro tours, the national tours, the majors. They said, let's get one of our media personalities that provides so much and that goes out and then kills it on the course. Dixon Jowers tonight from On the Box with Dixon Jowers. He's going to be joining us in just a few minutes. We'll catch up with him. Of course, he had a great performance this weekend, which we'll talk about, and seemed like just about an appropriate time. I'm not sharing as much booth space with him as I used to, so I feel like it's a great time to catch up with him and see what's going on, both, of course, on the course and maybe even more importantly, off the course. And then we'll catch up about some other things going on. We saw some other big news today in some signings, and of course, it's contract season, so we'll talk about that. But I think we'd be remiss without at least touching on briefly the big headline in today's contract signings is the fact that Brody Smith signed a 2-year extension with Discraft today.
Yeah, I believe he had signed a 1 year originally. I think both parties were testing the waters, Discraft and himself. He feels he has a lot of, I would say, a lot of clout to throw around, even before coming into disc golf with his social media presence and things like that. And so him and Discraft signed into a preliminary 1 year agreement. Today, it was announced that he signed a 2-year extension. So I'm assuming, that's going to go through 2022, more than likely. And come 2023, he'll be a free agent. And I look forward to all the Get Freaky discs. That's all I can say. Just keep shoveling discs out there for the masses.
Slanging them, Johnny. Get with it. Keep slanging them.
Slanging them?
Yep.
I
think.
I don't know. All I know is the dude has moved from, he's exceeded my expectations for the year. I think I had said he was going to hit like 960-ish, 950, 960. He's up in the 990s. He has the possibility to reach 1,000, I think I heard, if he shoots a couple 10-20 rated rounds to close out the year. Who knows if he's going to do that? But either way, he's in the 990s. He's doing very well, and more power to him. He's a very athletic guy. And I think he's got the sky's the limit, as they say.
Big sky or something like that. Big airs, whatever they say over in the ultimate department. But yeah, of course, that's some big news. I guess my question would be, and without knowing any more details or frankly researching any more details, just to be clear on that, I think it's a very valid question. Do you think others were actively pursuing him? Now that we've seen this 1 year.
No.
And I know there was conversations. He had more than a conversation with than Discraft last year. Do you feel like anyone else in any way, shape, or form even lobbed an offer over the table or threw anything his way? Didn't even bother.
No, only because, one, I don't necessarily know how many people knew his situation. I think that the re-signing happened probably before anyone had the opportunity to really make this happen. My guess is he was signed through the end of the year, and I don't think there was probably any other talk. Not saying, all right, all you Brody heads out there, whatever you guys call yourselves, I'm not saying that it wouldn't have been. I'm just saying I don't think the opportunity was even given. I don't think the chance was out there for people. I think he just liked what he has in Discraft. He's clearly good friends with Paul. He, and Hannah and, Kelsey, all those. They're a tight-knit group. They're all on Discraft, and I think that it's just a good fit for him, and he realizes that. He has a lot of freedom with Discraft. We've seen Discraft has no problem, getting freaky, and I just don't think the opportunity was out there for other companies.
Well, you have to wonder, with all of that being said, if that's the case, even though I feel like you could go back and see that the contract was for 1 year. So people knowing that it would expire, if they really wanted to pursue him, could have been doing it even months ago. But anyway, does that, because he's so quickly ingrained and we'll say embedded with Discraft right off the bat with Paul and others, did that take away any of the leveraging? Did that take away any negotiating or bargaining power, in the sense that it kind of felt like it was a foregone conclusion, and therefore, do you know what I mean? Like, does that, I don't want to say it's not showing his hand, but does it take anything away?
It's so hard to say. It's so hard to say what happened with, or what is happening with, some of our pros behind the scenes, and the dealings that they have. Like I said, I think Brody's pretty happy with Discraft. If I had to take a guess, as to, I'm not even going to begin to guess a base number, but my guess he's pulling in some sort of base salary with an incentive bonus in disc sales and probably maybe B tier or higher, like any standard pro. I think they see a lot of potential in him. I think he's got some pretty good potential on the course, but I'm not going to lie, his real potential is off the course. I mean, he's going to play well and he's going to shoot well, but it will be a few years before the on-course potential matches the off-course potential.
Okay, well, he's penning a letter to your inbox right now.
I just assume he's going to pop up on the screen and start yelling at me. I don't know.
No. So anyway, that certainly is part of the big news that we saw out there today. Looks like Dixon Jowers is going to be ready to go here in a few moments, and join us here, and we can talk to him about what's going on in his world. But who knows exactly how things are shaking out. I think I will admit, I know some insider information, not necessarily about Brody, but I think we're going to see a few contract extensions and some of those types of announcements obviously coming out soon. There's a juicy one or two that I heard about that unfortunately I can't share, but I do know that there's some things in the works, and that Ulta World, who does all the legwork we're too lazy to do. Ulta World is, I'm sure, got their tracker going over there with who's signing where and who's doing what. But I don't think we've seen thus far. We haven't seen anything crazy take place in the early goings here in mid-November.
I know there were talks last year of Kelvin had signed last year with Innova. I believe it was a 2-year agreement, if I remember correctly. And there were talks of him talking to some other companies last year. But I'll say it this year. I'm going to say it again next year. If Innova doesn't lock that boy up for at least 4 to 5 years, something wrong. Something wrong on the East or West Coast. Lock him up, because he is right now, between him and Kevin Jones and probably Eagle McMahon. And those are probably our 3 biggest people in the sport right now that have the most potential over the next 5 years. Lock him up, Innova, or Smashbox will. That's a threat.
Yes. With all that money we don't have. And then also, as I'm looking at their tracker right now, thanks to Ulta World, let's briefly borrow or plagiarize. They also have the Chris Dickerson's extension listed in there, 3 years through 2023. So, all right, guys.
We have somebody in our green room. We do, in our Disc Baron Digital green room.
What?
We do. I don't know who it is. Well, apparently, he called in. He said, "I have a podcast. You have to let me on." That's all I heard.
Oh, I assumed it was one of those, like, he's like a Zoom hacker and he's just playing Zoom roulette and trying to log in and find us.
No, Terry, he's clothed, unlike your other ones. Anyway, without any further ado, we're going to bring on Mr. Dixon Jowers. Hey, Dixon. How's that for an intro?
What's happening, fellas? No, actually, I was just calling to see if you wanted to extend your car's warranty.
Oh, excellent. It's healthcare season as well, if you could maybe manage that.
How are you doing on cars, Dixon? Do you guys need any new cars?
No, we're doing fine. I mean, if you feel like donating any, we'll for sure take it. Actually, a friend of mine was coming into town for a tournament about a month ago, and about 9:30 at night, I got a call from them, and they had hit a cow in southeast Kansas and totaled their truck. So,
Now, like when you say
and are they okay?
cow, yeah, I believe they're okay, right?
the cow or them?
The passengers.
Yes, okay. I mean, airbags deployed. They went skidding through the gravel. Their ears were ringing, all that sort of stuff. But no, they were kind of sore the next day. The cow was hamburger the next day. It was a rough night for everybody, including the farmer, who was quite upset about the whole thing.
Now, when you say cow, are we talking like milking cow, black and white, typical? You see it. Are you talking? There are, Terry, Dixon. Is it like, because cows are not very fast. Clearly, cars are.
Well, it was. I mean, they were going 65 on a 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, at 9:30 at night. There was no lights. It was two black cows actually standing butt to butt in the middle of the road. So they were going to hit one either way. And he said it was on them before one of them almost said the whole word cow before impact happened.
Yeah, because most people think of like Midwestern, mostly white with black spots. But this, you saying, was a mostly black cow.
Yeah, jet black. Apparently, it wasn't a calf. It wasn't full grown. It was kind of somewhere in the middle. If it had been full grown, then the story may have been different for them. And if it had been a calf, then maybe they would have just kept driving. Who knows? I don't really understand the physics of it. But needless to say, he bought a new truck recently.
Excellent.
Wow. Okay. Well, and it's funny to think, Johnny and I, who of course live in Wisconsin, you would think that story would be super common. And yet I know 0 people in my life that have hit a cow, and my dad alone, between my dad and my stepmom, who live not in a populated area, I think between the two of them have hit 8 or 10 deer in the last 20 years. But I've never once heard of a single person in Wisconsin in my life that's hit a cow.
Well, I mean, I lived in Texas for 15 years, and I still only know of one person that's ever hit a cow, and it happened in Kansas. I don't think this is up there with a lot of the most common accidents.
All right. Well, speaking of infrequencies, perfect segue, Dixon. You just played your first event here of 2021 just this last weekend?
My first 8-year.
First 8-year. Okay.
7 or 8 events this year. But yeah, first 8-year. Normally, I have GBO here in town in Emporia. I was really looking forward to the Masters major over in Columbia that didn't happen. So yeah, there were a couple of big tournaments on the radar that didn't get to happen because of the virus.
Yeah, and so what was it like for you to play in an event of that scale? I mean, knowing, like you said, GBO takes place in your backyard. What was it like? How were things really different for you, or was it kind of like your B and C tiers?
Yeah, I mean, really, the way that tournaments are going these days, a lot of. So I've been playing tournaments for 20 years now, and there used to be a big feeling difference between an A tier and even some B and C tiers. But these days, B tiers are getting elevated to the point that that in an A tier you used to have I don't know what you want to say, extras such as having scores posted at lunchtime, knowing what you're going to do, having an OB sheet or course maps or things like that. But even that sort of stuff that used to be for the big tournaments is now trickling down. So this didn't really feel all that different. It only really felt different when the paychecks were handed out.
And that's exactly what I meant. Sorry, Johnny. I was just going to say that's what I meant is that not only are the lower level events kind of, they're improving by leaps and bounds, but on top of that, you think of an A tier has the extra parties, has the doubles before it or the skins match before or after it. And with COVID, it's sometimes, like you said, kind of tough to tell between a C tier and an A tier, just because it's like people are there, they play golf, they check things online, and then they leave. Like things are pretty cut and dry, aren't they?
I don't want to say that this event did not have A-tier status, because I mean they did have.
Of course.
This is Matt Lloyd, and the Dynamic Disc Northwest Arkansas store was running this event. I mean, they did have doubles ahead of time. The GK Pro was doing the skins out there the day before. They had the local, it's like an arcade pinball and skee ball. They had that completely rented out, and everything was free on Friday night. They had a live band playing on Saturday night. So I mean, it's almost that the lower events have raised their game, not that the upper events are slacking or anything like that. But it was it was an exceptionally well-run event. There was no issues. There was no reason for me to talk to a TD or anything like that. I mean, it ran smooth. Even we got called off the course because of weather, and even all of that went really smooth on the Saturday round.
So talk to us a little bit, if somebody hasn't seen the footage from GK and hasn't had a chance to consume things, where were you playing? What were the courses like, that kind of stuff?
We had 2 rounds at a course called Creekside in Farmington, Arkansas, which is just west of Fayetteville, where I went to school, University of Arkansas. Go Hogs. We've actually won a couple of football games this year. We're 3-4 when we were predicted to go 0 and however many games we're going to end up with. And actually, it's 3-4 with an asterisk, because everybody agrees that the end of the Auburn game was a complete cluster, and the officials absolutely got everything wrong. If they had done it right, it would have been a different outcome. But it is what it is. And then we played a course that's actually on the same property as the Dynamic Disc store in Springdale, which is about 15 or 20 minutes north of the Farmington course. But really, when I graduated college there in December of '99. My first tournament was in May of '99. I'd been playing probably 12 months at that point, maybe, and just playing with an ultimate disc. At that point in the state, there were 4 courses total. And now there's probably 7 or 8 courses just in that northwest corner. So things are really exploding from there. Chris Clemens plays there all the time. Andrew Presnell is there around all the time. Kevin Jones, not from that corner of Arkansas, but kind of putting Arkansas on the map as far as disc golf goes. So a lot of things are going on up there, and it's good to see, because that really wasn't happening when when I was there.
So one of the things that jumps off the page, of course, congratulations on the win, but it jumps off the page. There were 21 Masters. You shot a little better than probably 1,010-ish average golf, maybe a little more than that, a little less than that. But there were 21 Masters. That's I feel like Masters fields are very regional. Sometimes you go to a Masters field and there's 4 people, or there's 6 people, or and then other parts of the country, obviously, you find 40 Masters isn't uncommon. Is that kind of normal for that area, or how does that factor in?
Yeah, I think so. And I assume with the divisions being renamed, you're just using master as a descriptor of me, since it's MP40 these days, right?
Yeah, of course. Yes. MP40.
I appreciate the adjective. It's growing for sure. And I mean, we have an aging population, with everybody new that's starting. There are people that have been playing for 10, 15, 20 years. And also there are 40-year-olds that are just picking it up. My brother and my 4 nephews live right down the street from the Farmington course. I've been trying to get them into golf for years, sending them discs and baskets and all sorts of stuff. It's been pretty much their Christmas gifts for the last several years. And they were always just kind of lukewarm to it. But with COVID, now they're out there. I mean, seriously, my nephews are playing 4 or 5 rounds a day when they're not at football practice or working or whatever. And so they've really gotten into it. My brother's 3 years older than me, and he played his first mini. So, I mean, that's just a brand new, 47-year-old guy picking up disc golf and trying to have some fun.
So speaking of COVID and everything that's, been a result of this year, last couple of years now, you'd have to tell us exactly when, but you started doing your own podcast, and you also have a very active group on Facebook. How I know it's a big task to say recap the year for you, but how did you tackle this year? What were you finding in terms of either your content or the way you even approached content for this year?
I mean, obviously, my podcast is a tournament recap show. I mean, that's what we're focused on, the statistics and what went on during a tournament. And there wasn't any of that from March until the DD Open, or is that what it was called?
Yeah, DD
yeah.
Open.
This year it was that one was the DD Open.
It'll be the DD Open from now on too.
Yeah.
Well, and previously we would have had the Glass Blown Open and the Dynamic Disc Open in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So the name is just it's attached to several different things now in my head. But yes, I mean there was 3 months where there was really nothing going on. Now one of the best parts I think about the community that we have on Facebook for the podcast page is, yes, we do talk a lot of disc golf, but we also talk other sports. And we talk lots of other things. I mean, in the past week or two, we've had discussions about OB rules. We've had discussions about the best sides for Thanksgiving. We've had discussions about
mashed potatoes, by the way.
About, I mean, that's a given, but there's more and better out there.
It's not better.
We've had discussions about Christmas movies. We've had discussions about statistics. So I mean, we kind of talk about all sorts of stuff, and whether or not there's a tournament going on, we still have discussions. So it's basically like just a fun group of friends that is going to talk about whatever, and most of the time that has to do with disc golf, but it doesn't go quiet when there's no disc golf happening.
Well, and I do want to plug it and say it's usually one of the, at least for me, it has been one of the most civil and obviously and can be educational, but one of the most civil places for common sense and disc golf conversation that you find out there in now it's a little bit of a I don't want to say a shallow setting, a constrained setting, in that it's a group, but I think that's also part of the beauty of it, and it rarely goes sideways from what I can really ever imagine or recall. It's just, I feel like it's just such a solid set of people that keep things quite adult-like, and that says a lot in the age of the internet in 2020.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm most proud about of all this. And it's not that I had anything really to do with it. I mean, it's just people. When we lay out the idea of, hey, let's treat one another with kindness and disagree well, when that becomes the expectation, then when somebody runs afoul of it, it's not me coming in with the band hammer or something like that. Generally, it's other people on there, and they don't say, hey, stop acting like a jerk. They're just able to redirect the conversation well. Periodically, I'll send private messages to people. If somebody has some foul language, for instance, I mean, that doesn't ruffle my feathers all that much, but I know there are some children, some kid disc golfers that are part of the page, and so I don't want my page to be something that their parents don't want them to be a part of. So I'll send a private message, hey, I like your thought. Can you clean up the language a little bit? And that has never been responded to poorly. People say, oh yeah, my bad, and I'll go and look, and they edit it right away. Same idea, different words. So it's just a group of people that I enjoy hanging out with, and there's all sorts of people that just kind of lurk, and if you hit the right topic, boy, they really blossom and want to come in, hot on whatever the topic is. So that's why I try to keep things moving around, lots of different things going on. But for the most part, disc golf, movies, other sports, food. That seems to be kind of the 4 categories that we cover extensively. And if I can fit those things into some sort of bracket, that's where I like to go. Lots and lots of brackets have happened on our page.
And I'm going to disagree with you real quick about the no about the what?
You're free to be wrong.
No. I think you'll agree with me. I'm going to disagree that it's not your fault or responsibility for the people you've attracted. I think everybody gets the audience they cultivate and deserve. And I've said that about SmashBoxx. I've said that about anybody or any group. You get the audience and the following that you cultivate. And I think you cultivate a very level-headed audience and group. and I enjoy I've been a part of the group, I think, probably since close to day one. And I enjoy it because Terry's right. It is one of the most civil and reasonable places in the disc golf world. Well, at least when it comes to Facebook, for sure. So
Well, thank you for the kind words. I mean,
they don't come often, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that group, and actually, they are motivation at times when it's like, I don't want to have to go do the research and record an episode this week. I've got a lot of work stuff to do. We're supposed to go do this with the family. I'm gonna have to stay up late or get up early or whatever. But then I think, well, if I stopped recording the podcast, then there would be no reason for the page. And I like the page, so it motivates me to do the podcast sometimes.
Well, so let's transition from that into, you and I had done some play-by-play. You and Robert McCall have, of course, done some play calling. I know you've been involved in other commentary, all in addition to doing things like your podcast. What would be kind of an ideal role, or are you filling your ideal role in disc golf media right now? If whether it's someone else that's listening, or you're just spitballing, or dreaming here, whatever the case might be, what would be your ideal role within disc golf media, if any?
Right. I mean, I love to do commentary. I really enjoy that side of it because, I mean, that's why the podcast got started. So I was part of the Inside the Circle podcast that Dynamic Disc was doing when I was employed there. Me and Bobby Brown and Eric McCabe were recording that. And then when I stopped working there, that podcast went away, but I still had this desire to talk about the tournaments. And I wanted to discuss those things. And this was kind of right as UDisc was getting born, and the availability of statistics was happening for the first time in disc golf, other than just kind of knowing broad strokes or scores or something like that. But to really be able to dig down into individual tournament lines, as well as seeing how something transitions over the course of a year. That stuff was becoming new, and man, I just wanted to talk about it and other people to be a part of that. So commentary is something that I do, especially if my kids are watching disc golf with me. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm explaining what's going on and why it was a good idea or a bad idea, or how excellent their execution was, or what they could have done a little bit better, or why that hole is difficult. That stuff just comes out of my mouth. And I really enjoyed the time, Terry, that we got to work together. I think that was the 2018 season, starting at the San Francisco tournament, or the Utah tournament, and no, it was San Francisco tournament. That's what it was. Because Corey Morrow did it the week before, but he was part of the tournament staff at San Francisco, so he wanted to be at the course, to be hands-on help, and kind of stepped in there. So I really enjoyed that. I think there are opportunities. Who knows if it's as widespread as it seems, but it seems the disc golf community would like the Pro Tour to do something different with their commentary. And that may just be the loudest 10% of people, and lots of people are okay with it. I don't know. But I think it could be a good idea to look for experienced commentators in the places where the tournament are, that have the specific knowledge of that event. So the example I give is when they did the DD Open, Jamie and Nate were doing the commentary for that, and they both have their sets of skills. But Nate does not like the Emporia courses. He's said that before. And I don't think, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think Jamie has ever played those courses. So you have me and Robert McCall, who live in town, who play those courses all the time, and who have done work for the Pro Tour before. And by the Pro Tour's admission, they said that we did a really fine job when we covered Idlewild 2 years ago from Emporia. Mm-hmm. So that makes for a good marriage of an individual tournament like that. Like, that doesn't mean that we need to be going all over the country and doing stuff, because there's courses that we don't know about. But the country club, I mean, if you go out this window right here, 5/10 of a mile that way, that's the country club. Like, I know that course. If you go this way, I suppose, is Jones Park. That's 3/10 of a mile that way. Like, I mean, we have a knowledge of the stuff that goes on here. that nobody else can match. No other commentator team could match what we know about Emporia. Now, playing at Santa Cruz at De La, Nate Doss needs to be on that coverage. He has so many wins at that course. He grew up on that course. He needs to talk about that because he knows not just about the holes, he knows about specific roots in the ground. And he's got a story about that tree. And he knows what happened when the wind comes off this way, but on this hole, it really feels like it's going that way. Like all of that sort of stuff that comes with experience that I don't have on those places, I do have that right down the road here. So I think that the Pro Tour could do some interesting things with some local commentators about those courses. I think Steve Dodge at Maple Hill, I know he's got a million other things that he needs to be doing during that tournament, but to hear Steve talk about Maple Hill and what's necessary to happen on that course, I think that could be fantastic.
I think that we're going to see, I mean, as the Disc Golf Pro Tour expands, and we've been in talks for the last couple of weeks about possible planning for next year and what tournaments we're going to cover, and how many are there, and does the commentating crew want to do every single one of them, or does it get, I don't want to say get old, but it does. If you had to watch, I don't care who your favorite commentators are, if you have to listen to them every single week, it's probably going to grate on you at some point, because there's only so many things that a commentator can say repetitively. I am hoping that next year we're going to start kind of seeing like an A, a B, or maybe even a C crew, and not to rank them, but just different crews that we have for different events, like you say, more regional. If Nate wants to take care of the West Coast, and over on the East Coast, we have Double G and somebody, I don't know. But just in general, and in the Midwest, it's you and McCall, or Terry and you, or Terry and McCall, whatever. I'm hoping that we get to the point where that is really what happens. I don't know if it's going to, but I know there's talks of having multiple crews for different events in the future. But that comes with a lot of, as everybody knows, that comes with a lot of technology things that we that we're going to be working through over the next couple of years.
Yeah,
but
and that's part of the problem. There is a huge benefit to having the studio in a single spot all year long. You don't have to pack it all up. You don't have to mail it to somebody else. You have half of your commentary team there all the time. I mean, people, they hear Jamie on the mic, but to think about what does it take to be there for that first, I don't know, let's say it's a Thursday through Sunday tournament. For Jamie to be ready to go at the first throw on Thursday, he had to travel on Wednesday. It's not easy to get to Bend. You got to fly in and you got to drive. The amount of time that it takes for Jamie to be a part of that, and not mentioning that Nate and Val are stepping away from their business that they're trying to, keep running in such a spectacular fashion. There's a lot of stuff that happens. Oh, and by the way, as a new father, I mean, like there's other things that for Jamie to be thinking about while all of this is going on. So the commitment to be able to do that and the time constraints that it takes there's a lot that goes on besides saying, welcome to whatever tournament. Here we are on hole one, and then thanks for joining in. I mean, there's a lot more that happens that those guys have to deal with the whole time.
Yeah, and I'll just button that all up and say, kind of to repeat what Johnny's saying, there are conversations, and of course, Johnny nor I are looking into a crystal ball that we don't have, but there certainly are the conversations about trying to find ways to get a little bit innovative and creative to mix things up. Nate, I don't care if it's a secret. I don't think it is, but Nate and Val have said themselves, if the Pro Tour continues to expand, or there's more coverage on Disc Golf Network, we just, as you mentioned, we don't have the weekends available to step away from our business to continue to put in the time to cover every single event. And even if they did have the time, as you both have said, maybe that's not the best move to have one static crew week in and week out. And that's where I think if we grow and expand, I think the commentary, the teams, the dynamics of the different groups can all continue to kind of shift and flow. I mean, I go all the way back to the very first weekend when we were at the USDGC with Disc Golf Planet. And at that time, now granted, these were some of the first days ever of live coverage, literally ever in disc golf. We were rotating in, John Dusler, who was at the helm, was rotating in people it felt like every couple of holes, and it was me and Crazy John Brooks, and then it might have been me and Dave Greenwell, and then I'd step out, and then it was Greenwell and Crazy John, and then it was
Jim
Mace
Oates.
Man and Jim Oates, and and it was just at that time we were literally just rotating people in and out, trying to play with different scenarios and teams, and clearly we should be doing that every few holes or anything, but I think it's just a matter of finding the chemistry, finding the teams, and then seeing not only who's maybe good at it, but then who wants to do it, who has the availability to do it, and so on and so forth. And as you discussed, and a lot of people agree on the board, the regionality, or the regional component to it can certainly factor in, and that might help kind of dictate people's schedules and what we're looking ahead to. So all of that, believe us, people out there, all of that is being currently processed and taken into consideration. So that's awesome.
Were you the red dot or the blue dot at that early DGC
coverage? I remember watching, and for those that don't know,
you guys about current coverage, if you only knew what the first iteration of live coverage was.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And
I will say, I think
the
there's
whole
still
dot
a spot
technology
for that.
is another story.
There's still a spot for dots.
Sure.
I think that if if you could integrate something like that in with the live coverage, it would make things really enjoyable, because we get on some of these wooded holes, a disc hits a tree and skips 50 feet off to the right. It might not have gotten to the catch cam. It might be far enough away from the throw cam. The viewers could be a little bit lost on a course maybe they don't know, even with a drone flyover. With infinite resources and people, you have someone sitting there going, dot, oh, that's where it landed. I see it from here. And then everybody and the viewers, we can bring it up for the commentators and things like that.
Well, the reality,
big picture things.
Right, the Masters just happened. The Masters app is considered one of the best apps in all of sports. And they have a function that's like dots. You can see where the ball lands and how the ball got to where it is. And sometimes in disc golf, how a disc got to where it was is part of the story. It's not always just in a straight line. So figuring out some of that stuff, if it was coming in forehand or backhand and how the skips happened, and maybe there was a roll away or whatever, seeing that sort of stuff, if it's not caught by the camera, is valuable. I enjoy that kind of stuff. So perhaps one day we'll have our own Masters app for disc golf. UDisc, hopefully they're working on that.
Well, and as you're saying, there are so many different mediums now that people are consuming it, whether you're watching it because you're watching constant posts from an Alyssa Van Lannen and or a Disc Golf Pro Tour Instagram page, or you're watching solely on the UDisc app because you're just not in a position to be able to be viewing the actual video, or for a while a Twitter account, at least at the PDJ National Tour level. Before some of this other stuff really advanced, a Twitter account was practically giving you shot-by-shot coverage, thanks to Marty Gregoire and a lot of the efforts that he did. So, there's so many different ways that we can continue to consume and put out the disc golf media. And truth be told, when I originally thought I was just taking on SmashBoxx as a project of my own, the whole logic was I'm gonna have a page that will have a Twitter feed. It'll have like an Instagram type feed. That was before Instagram existed. So it would just be pictures. It was going to have the PDGA scoreboard, and then it was going to be giving you live audio play-by-play. And it was fully tested to do just that. And I remember saying, when someone's like, well, why wouldn't you do video? I'm like, because video's expensive. You're crazy. I'm not going to put up live disc golf video. That's insane. And 2 years later, we were starting a disc golf company to broadcast live disc golf. But there's just so many ways that people are out there trying to consume. So I agree with the whole dot concept as well. Let's bring back the dots.
One innovation that has happened that has gone away when the Disc Golf World Tour went away was on their live scoring matrix. On a lot of shots, you could click on an individual hole, and I think it was just Avery filming videos and uploading them, but you could see how a particular player got a 3 on that hole, and it was just his 3 shots. I thought that was fantastic, and really that hasn't happened since the World Tour went away.
Yeah, that was That was an Instagram feature that I think they were linking to the scorecard. They had a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
people from Instagram following the first, or a bunch of people following
Yeah.
the first couple cards and being able to do that.
Right.
But
I
yeah,
love that.
I did too. I thought that was really clever.
Well, I guess we'll have to see. So you just mentioned maybe what you'd love to do in terms of the commentary. What is your I don't want to say your career path, but I mean, how has COVID affected you and your 9 to 5 type job? And then I guess leading into 2021, if you were able to do commentary, would you have restrictions? Would you have any considerations that you'd have career wise or family wise?
So my job is I do accounting and collections for the staffing agencies in Texas. And actually, the guy that I work for, I met him on the disc golf course when I was still working as a youth pastor in Texas. So I knew him for a few years before I ever started working for him. So our relationship has the foundation of disc golf. So he has been, I mean, just in a general sense, as the big boss, he's been exceptionally gracious to me. But also he's been out for a couple of years with a couple of different injuries. But he throws discs and he enjoys the game and he talks about the game and whatnot. So when my job, basically, he works under the attitude of, as long as you get your stuff done and done well, I don't care when you do it. Now there are some specific things that happen during the week that have to happen within a certain time frame. At least that's how I've established when I'm working with my colleagues. Of you can expect, this report at this time and that sort of stuff. Or if there's some troubleshooting I need to do, they'll let me know those things. But for the most part, I have a lot of freedom. So that there are considerations there, but they're not. It's not like I have to be at a desk from 9 to 5, and it would hinder any sort of travel or anything like that. For the most part, it would just shift a lot of my job to to the hours when I could do it, and so long. Over a long enough period of time, I'm sure if I was always traveling, it would cause some problems. But 3 or 4 days traveling and doing other things while doing my job, I can generally clean that up the next Monday and Tuesday, and so that's not really a problem. Missing my family is a consideration for sure, and really traveling with my family would be ideal. And but they've obviously got things that they are doing as well. So as far as leading into 2021, I don't know. Part of, and my wife has asked me this before, like why do you do the podcast? What's your goal down the road? Really, and this is, was it Casey Kasem, something about, shooting for the moon and you're still in the stars, or I don't remember what it was. But the idea is I want to be relevant in the disc golf media world for when ESPN is looking for some guy to come to Bristol and talk about disc golf, or whatever. I want my name to be on that list for an opportunity to still be involved, if and when it ever takes off. That was really kind of the motivation when the way that I got involved with the Disc Golf Pro Tour for the 2018 season was I wrote Steve. So that was the start of the third Pro Tour season. I wrote Steve in between the second and the third, and I said, hey, I really like where the Pro Tour is going. Wasn't so sure at the beginning, but I've really seen some changes you guys have done and some stuff you're working towards that I think is going to be great for the future of disc golf. And I'd like to be involved. If you can think of some way that I can be involved, let me know. And that's how I ended up getting involved with that. So I want to inject my name and then prove it by my work. And so that's kind of why I'm hanging around, is so that hopefully I can be a voice of disc golf as things move forward, and hopefully a trusted and a respected voice of what how I see things, the history that I've been able to witness or been a part of, and just to kind of tell that story. Because I mean, even players playing today, there was I think it was in Oklahoma. I heard this story of a guy had a KC Pro disc, and he didn't know that KC stood for Ken Climo. He thought it was just meant that it was some guy named Carl Clark or whatever, and this was his disc that just said AC Rock or whatever. And so like that idea that people have no idea who Climo is. It's like, I mean, he hadn't been out for that long, guys, and he was kind of a big deal for kind of a long time. You would think that's a, you know, but even now, I mean, there's people that even in kind of the post Climo era, there's people that don't really know who Feldberg is or only know Doss as a commentator. They don't realize that he's a 3-time world champion. So, I mean, it's just some of that story is being lost with the new people. And there's parts of that they need to know about. You know, that these guys used to shoot these incredible scores with just T-birds and rocks and a buzz, you know, like, so that's the way that the game is growing. The context on the story of disc golf needs to be around.
I guarantee you there's a kid or two that have bought Air Jordans that have no clue who Michael Jordan is these days.
Yeah,
like,
it's just a song by Drake. It's not even talking about Michael Jordan anymore.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my next question, though. Knowing how you're 100 times more into sports than probably Johnny and I combined, although I bring almost zero to the table there. But you're very much a sports fanatic. So that would be my question to you. Who else could you name, or would you name, that you feel like maybe there's a little parallel to, in terms of was arguably or for sure is one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time in any given sport, that you feel like hasn't transcended the actual decades? Like, sure, there's one or two kids that don't know who Jordan is, but I feel like Jordan's name, and obviously even the Netflix and all that, continuing his branding, continues to transcend generation after generation. Is there any other sport or top level GOAT, so to speak, that you don't feel like that you could make a parallel to Ken Climo? Because like you said, if you weren't around 10 years ago, you probably have no idea who Ken Climo is.
So I think back to my junior high and high school room growing up. I had all sorts of posters on the wall, but there was 2 sports posters. There was the Michael Jordan Wings poster where he had a basketball, like a 6.5 foot wide poster. I had that.
And then the Bo Jackson version with the bat or something.
My friend had the one where he's got the shoulder pads and the baseball bat over his shoulder. Yeah. My friend had that. The other one I had was as well. It was a 6 foot long poster, and it was the Ozzie Smith, the Wizard poster, where he's diving for a ball and he is completely laid out 100% vertical or horizontal, parallel with the ground. Ozzie Smith was my favorite baseball player growing up. I think maybe the best fielding shortstop of all time. I mean, he was just kind of an average hitter, but, you know, he got on base and he was fast, but you couldn't hit a ball past him. And I remember watching, he did an interview standing in the hole at shortstop, facing third base and facing the camera, and he had a bucket of balls right here, and he's facing third base and talking to the guy, and he's picking up balls and he's throwing them underneath his arm to first base as he's interviewing, talking to third base, and the first baseman is just catching one, catching the next one, catching the next one, and he was just talking about he can dive on a ball and not look and throw it to first on target because he sits there and he does this stuff all day long from all sorts of different spots. He knows where the base is. So that sort of work ethic, it was one of the first times that I saw, like, because it's easy just to say, well, he's the superior athlete. He's better than me. He can do that kind of stuff. All that stuff's true, but he also works his butt off when the cameras aren't on to be able to do that. So I loved Ozzie Smith. And also he just looked like he had a great time, you know, the backflips coming onto the field and stuff like that. But I feel like most people these days, unless you're my age, have no idea who Ozzie Smith is. You know, it's one of those things that if you go and read record books and you see his name, you know, I mean, it sounds kind of like he played in the 1930s or something like that. And you might just assume that, having no idea that he was still active not too long ago and still being fantastic. You know, my wife doesn't allow sports posters in our bedroom for some reason. I don't know, you know, decoration and all that. But if she did, that would be probably the first one that I would go find. I do have a nice wall right here that's got nothing on it. So maybe I'll see if that Wizard poster is still hanging around somewhere.
See, and for me growing up, it was Wade Boggs. I don't know why, but I had an affinity. Dude just didn't miss. He hit. He was just a phenomenal hitter, and not the best fielding guy, and a little kind of a pudgy guy, and he just hit the ball constantly. He never. I mean, he hit over 300 for years, and just one of those. On the Red Sox, I was a Red Sox fan a little bit growing up. It just. It's those type of people that will probably just kind of get washed over in time.
I remember I used to like to play with the Red Sox on RBI Baseball, the original NES, which I still think is the best video game of all time. And I will beat anybody that wants to pick up the old gray controller and play me in RBI Baseball. But yeah, I mean, I used to play the Red Sox to have Jim Rice and Wade Boggs and those guys because they were the team that just smashed everything.
Yep. Greenwell, Oil Cam, Boyd, yeah. Wade Boggs was the only guy who looked like his character. So
Tony Armas was on the bench with 43 home runs. You had to sub him out almost immediately as soon as you started the game.
Okay. So if you were allowed and you wanted to, you were lobbying for this. I know this is a little bit of a stretch, but if you were allowed after you lobbied to put up a disc golf poster in your bedroom, who would it be of?
Of a person?
Yeah.
This is going to get creepy real quick.
I'm obviously not putting up a female poster in my room.
Sexist. Okay, but no, I hear you.
So it has to be a male poster, which seems equally weird that I'm going to put up of somebody that I know. It's kind of peculiar. I don't know. Maybe I would put up a poster of like a sunburned faced Terry Miller.
That's a cop out. All right.
You'd be like, look at that, honey.
I'll send you one.
I don't look like that.
I'll send you one.
We're good.
One of my favorite images in disc golf over the last couple of years, and I was telling my nephew the story about it this weekend, was at the Memorial, I think it was 2018, where Conrad was throwing the skip shot. It was on like hole 14 or something. It was going out of bounds, and the crowd cleared out of the way. He totally claimed that one water bottle, and everybody had cleared out except for the water bottle, and the one guy had to come walking back over all by himself. It's just like the sad Charlie Brown music, and he bent over to pick up the water bottle. Like that picture, like I'd love to have that on the wall because it's such a funny memory for everybody except for James, I guess. But I mean, as far as players that I like, if I was going to do that, I mean, there is something to honor about just about all of the top players. Obviously Paul's consistency and his ability to just be better at just about everything in the disc golf world is fantastic. I love the way Dickerson, without traveling and being a part of everything, still challenges. I mean, he doesn't get the benefit of being all over the country with all of these players all the time, and maybe eating something besides chicken strips. Like he doesn't expand his horizons too much on the plate or the disc golf course, but he's able to compete at a high level. I love Kevin's energy for the game and kind of bringing kind of a new, I wouldn't call it a swagger because that almost sounds insulting, but just a new confidence that is, that's fun and having a good time. I love Ricky's bounce back after having such a tough end to last year, and his work ethic to go and practice till he's got blisters on his fingers just at the putting basket over and over. So I mean, there's things that I enjoy about all of these guys. But I guess if I had to have a poster, maybe it's a super smooth player that's probably the most handsome guy in disc golf, Cale, right? I mean, if you got to have some guy on your wall, might as well be Cale, right?
It's pretty to look at.
Your
every
wife
time.
could look at him. Yeah.
I forget what tournament it was, but so Robert McCall is a good buddy of mine, and Miles Seaborn, and we text with each other all the time. And there was some tournament early. It may have been. It was something right after we came back from the COVID break. Maybe it was a Preserve or something that was up north.
Preserve.
and so Kale hadn't had his, like everybody else, nobody was having haircuts during the time, right? And he came on the screen, and we were like, of course he looks good without having a haircut. This friggin' guy, So I mean, like, yeah, we'll put Kale up on the wall.
Okay, fair enough. So to kind of backtrack a little bit, you are, I believe, one of the only people, as of right now at least, that are doing a solo media, I don't want to call it stint, a media gig though. I mean, when you think about all the podcasts that are around, I mean, as much as all of the weight and the effort is really put on my shoulders to do this one, Johnny's still there every single week. Whether I like it or not, he's got to press buttons. But no, in all seriousness, all of our podcasts are 2 or more people that we've seen out there, and then pros, cons, challenges. What your format? What it good, bad, indifferent? I mean, assuming obviously that you like it that way, but I mean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would have no problem having a co-host. I think Robert and I get along well as far as like on the mic. I mean, we had dinner at his house on Saturday night or on Sunday night. We played pickleball together last night. I mean, we're friends.
How badly did he beat you?
Well, I don't know if we ever played against each other.
Oh. Because I just assume if you would have won, you would have mentioned, "Oh, we played pickleball and I beat him." So
normally that would be the case, but I don't think we played against each other last night. We did play together in our last game and lost in overtime. Yeah, there's lots of people out there, and it's doubles, and you switch a lot, and so it is what it is. But his disc golf game and his pickleball game is taking a back seat. He had his boy Owen. I think it was October 2nd, beginning of about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. So he he's not sleeping. He's not at top level right now. Let's just say that. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the time that I spent with Bobby and Eric doing Inside the Circle. I don't have any problems with that, but generally I'm recording at my own schedule. I record my segments individually over the course of a couple of days, and I'm doing research kind of constantly on those. I have to wait until footage comes out, and actually that's gotten so much better. You used to have to wait almost 24 hours, sometimes 36 hours, and now you'll wake up on a Saturday morning and the Friday round's already posted. I mean, these media companies are just getting ridiculous with their turnaround of superior content than they were putting out a couple of years ago. I mean, it's just incredible. So that freedom to be able to record whenever is nice. I like to be able to prepare a little bit more for a segment instead of having some things and then just kind of going off the cuff. If I want to be respected as talking about statistics in a reasonable way, then I need to know them specifically. And I don't want to be reading. I want that stuff to have been ingested so that I kind of understand what's going on. What I like to try to do is not just read the statistics, but kind of feel a story, see how the tournament played out through the numbers. And that just takes time to look at and chew on for a little bit to get to that point. So it wouldn't negate having a partner or a whole studio full of people. But it just kind of is what it is right now. But I'm not opposed to it, and I'm not seeking it. I'm just kind of doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I'll just follow that up and say, you do more research in for one segment than Johnny and I do in an entire year. I mean, that's just shouldn't be a secret that's out there.
It's not a secret.
And really to further that point, it's so much easier when it's 1 or 2 or 3 people, whether it's you have a topic or 2 that you think about, or it's just having conversation, which a lot of people say our podcast is just very conversational. It's relatively easy. At least it is, I feel like, for Johnny and I think it probably is for a lot of other podcasts. When you're solo, like yourself, it's just you and that microphone and whatever else you've prepared. And so that's why I give you so much more credit, because there's no one to lean on. There's no one to fill the gap. There's there's so many other things that just you don't have the advantage of. And quite frankly, I think of it all the time that I wouldn't enjoy doing just a solo, one person, one mic style podcast, because it would be so much more work. So that's all a backhanded compliment really to you. Or maybe a forehanded compliment.
There's no kind of riffing because if you start, if you start just kind of rambling around, you'll never get anywhere because there's nobody to keep you on track. So, I mean, I have to kind of plan out this. I don't script it, but I have, pages of notes that I'm going to refer to. And I've often wondered if while I'm recording, if people hear the pages flipping or turning over or whatever. But I mean, it's how I kind of stay on top of things, of knowing where I want to go. And I know kind of, I'll generally have a broad outline, what happened to this guy on hole 8, and then here's the C1 putting or whatever. So I'll know to hit those things, and then I'll just have kind of a load of stats that I know I want to get to. And even when I'm not recording a podcast, I mean, I don't know if you can see all this. I mean, this is stuff that I was just doing today because I enjoy doing that kind of stuff today. I was just looking at year-end stats and kind of how people rank towards each other, and seeing what people need to work on in the off season just by looking at their stats. Trying to see if that makes sense to what was going on. For instance, right, the common theme people would say over the course of the year is, oh well, Katrina, her putting, it's terrible. You got to do something with her putting. But the reality is, it's not that bad in the relation to the rest of the field. Her problem is in relation to Paige. Her and Paige are 1-2 in just about everything except for putting. Katrina gives up on average, well, over the course of the 11 Pro Tour events that they both played, she missed 53 more putts than Paige did inside the circle. So that's about 5 missed circle 1 putts each tournament. And when you think, man, just 5 putts over the course of a tournament, that's not very much. But how many events did she lose by less than 5? Several. I mean, so really, that's the thing for Katrina. So it's just that kind of stuff that I like looking at, and I like seeing how those things play out. And that's just kind of where my brain goes in the world of disc golf. After, I spend a lot of time just kind of mouth agape at some of the stuff these guys are doing. And then after I kind of get over that, then I want to look at the numbers to see what they're doing. So another, for instance, so my brother was watching the event this last weekend, and I don't know if you guys have watched any of GK's coverage, but there's a hole that is, I think it's 267 feet, about 30 feet wide. The first 200 feet are a tunnel, and then it goes out into a field, baskets right in the middle. It's a backhand mid-range or fairway driver for everybody in the whole world.
Except for Kevin Jones.
He threw a grenade. And first my brother was like, how did the disc come from up there? And so I showed him what a grenade is. And he said, it's never occurred to me to look up there. And I was like, me neither. Like, I've seen that shot, not on that hole, but like I threw a grenade once. Well, I mean, we called it a Scooby in Texas. You call it whatever you want. I felt like my thumb was going to fall off after the only time I ever threw it. And I vowed that I would never throw it again. Just to see that sort of stuff, I mean, it blows my mind that he would attempt it, but then seeing that on the 2 rounds that he played out there, I think he was a total of maybe 20 feet away on his 2 shots. It's the perfect shot for that hole, and Kevin executed it perfectly. So part of me is just like fanboying and going, holy cow, did you see that? And then part of me wants to look at his accuracy on all the different times that he threw grenades over the course of that tournament and see, how effective it was in that shot versus if he was going to throw his A3 or, whatever he would have chosen in a situation like that. But I love watching disc golf. I mean, we talked about it this weekend as we were following the MPO crowd. There was a couple of holes where you could get on the side of the hole probably about 2/3 of the way down, and you could look over here and see the drive, and you could follow it the whole way to the basket. And I love that view. I think the disc flying through the air is one of the most aesthetically appealing things in all of sports. And I love watching it. And then I love talking about it. And then therefore I want to put a microphone on so other people can hear me talk about it. And that's kind of how podcast gets started.
Well, so one of my question would be, since you love to talk stats and tournaments and recaps, you were there this weekend. Of course, you took it down, as we said, in the MP40 division. Katrina, fourth event in a row that she's won. Now, her competition hasn't been quite as stout as it was earlier in the year. The fields aren't quite as stacked. That's not to say she's not playing good golf or to take anything away from her, but she has now rolled over 4 separate events now in a row. Anything to take from either her game or the FPO field or any of these events? Anything that strikes you after seeing her pick up yet another win this weekend? And of course, congratulations to her. But anything you want to add to that?
I think for the FPO field, especially, I mean, there's obviously there's Paige, and then slightly below that is Kat, and then there's a drop off, I think, but then you've got some women who are kind of that second tier on the national stage, but who would wipe the floor on the local stage. I think in kind of the off-season time, this is time for them to build their nest egg for next year. I mean, Katrina's going to these tournaments and just cashing checks. There was 2 players in this event that were within 100 points of her. I mean, she could probably go all forehand and still win this event. I don't even know what her final tally was. I think she won.
I'm looking. 21 strokes.
Yeah, she won 21. And I was just also looking at she had a 65-point buffer between her and the second highest rated woman, who was Kat Murch, who then took second. Right. She had 65 points going into that. So when you extrapolate that out, 3 rounds, she won by 21. She won by 7. I mean, that's almost right where her rating, roughly should have put her in her, on paper with an advantage, right? 6.5 strokes. She wins by 21.
So, I mean, I think this is a perfect opportunity for those, for those ladies to go and play all of these A tiers, play all of these events that they can, get practice in, but also just get checks and start putting that stuff in the bank, so that next year, if you're finishing 4th and 5th, in the Pro Tour events, while payout is increasing, man, I'd really love to do a study of how much money it takes to be on the road, to go from event to event. Sponsors aren't going to relinquish the information of what they're paying for. Are they paying for hotels? Are they paying for gas? Are they doing tournament entry fees or whatever? I would love to know what the break-even number is. How do you how much money do you have to make weekend to make it? Reach out to you.
Sorry, no. I was going to interrupt you and just tell you, reach out to Sarah Hokum, and I say that because I think she has kept very good records, and I don't know if she's going to tell you I think everything she does is relatively I don't want to say would be confidential. Reach out to her, because I think she keeps very good records of her expenses and what she's doing out there on the road. And then obviously you see all of her payouts. Now you might not get her specific sponsorship earnings or whatever, but you can obviously see where she does within her placing. And then I think even just your sheer cost, I think having someone break down every penny that they've been spending on the road in these last few years. And if quick tip, I'm not an accountant, but if you're Kat Murch or you're literally anyone that's just jumping on, Kyle Klein, you're just jumping on the tour now, start doing your bookkeeping and your accounting from day one, because it's only going to build up. It's only going to become more of a pain. And in 6 months, you're going to be maybe looking through a shoebox from your Adidas Terex where you're like, oh, I don't know if I have all my right receipts from this year or not. So start logging that stuff immediately in some format. But I think one of your people that might have some great insight would be Sarah Hokum. I know she's done very well with that.
I remember talking to Yuli at a GBO. It had to have been 2013, maybe. And just even at that point, I mean, we're talking 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever year it was. And he was like, hey, after around all these guys, they're going to eat, they're going to drink, they're spending a bunch of money on drinks. He said, I'm going to eat peanut butter. I'm trying to put money into an account. I mean, outside of Paul, Rick, Nate, Calvin, Chris, Kevin, I mean, do any of these guys have a savings account? I don't know. Probably not. I mean, they are probably living, tournament to tournament.
As they may need to at this moment, literally in order to get to it. So I don't think it's necessarily that you're passing any judgment. It's a means to justify the end right now. But yeah, there's steps that can be taken that I think these people can get off on the right foot and set themselves on the right path.
Right. I mean, the reality is, you can. It's I guess it's either funny or sad depending on how you look at it. But at a major event, if you go to the local page, the local Facebook page for that group, you'll see some of the traveling pros asking for a place to stay. A week before the event. Now part of me is like, well, that's terrible planning. You should have thought about that a while back. But then part of it is also like they maybe didn't know they were going to be able to go to this tournament. And staying on on somebody's couch is going to make the difference about whether they can go to the next tournament. And that's just kind of where we're at right now with sponsorship dollars. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I whatever we've got to do to raise the purses, I'm in favor of that. I'm absolutely in favor of that. If it means shrinking fields, if it means cutting out extraneous expenses, I'm all for that for the MPO levels. Tournament organizer, don't spend money on a bunch of water bottles and coolers and all of that sort of stuff. Let the player take care of that and put that extra $500 into the purse. I mean, like cut everything out to put every extra dime you can to the players, so that Paul's going to whatever event Paul wants to go to, and Discraft is happily sending him. He's a different animal, right? But your 10th, 15th place guy, he doesn't have that same sort of luxury, that same sort of flexibility. And that's one of the things I appreciate about Paul being so open with his contracts, is he's saying, I'm trying to throw this out there so that other people feel the pressure, other sponsors feel the pressure, and they have to, they have to start thinking about taking care of the players like this. I appreciate Paul for doing that. So, I mean, hopefully we can get to that point where, I mean, if you want to be sick, go look at what the last guy that made cash at the Masters, what he made. I mean, that probably puts him second on the PDGA money list this year, or any year. It's just the amount of money that's involved in other things. If we could just get a portion of that, that would be fantastic for our traveling pros.
I agree. And Emacs
Alex
on the
Noren,
board.
$25,415.
Okay. Not bad for last Masters cash, I'm assuming.
Tied for 62nd with Emilino Grillo, Bernard Langer, and JB Holmes. I believe they all scored $25,415.
Household names.
Yes, completely.
Yeah, right. Emacs on the board, and before I maybe lead you to my final question, I'll chime in with what he says. Players are making much more money now than they were even 5 years ago, which again, and he's 100% true. They're making so much more. And I think, as you're saying, we have so much more to go. But yeah, even the leaps and bounds in the last 5 years, whether that's Paul and Eagle and Simon and Ricky pushing those contracts forward, or whomever, the fact that we are where we are now, and we've been so huge, or the growth has been so great just in the last 5 or 7 years. If you go back to a Prodigy, beginning and whatnot, it's pretty incredible. There again is the history that's lost. People, right. Emac and I know joked about that. It wasn't that long ago where, every single penny, was so much more crucial. And now so many players have touring discs and their entry fees are covered more often than before. travel stipends, international travel stipends. All of those things are much more commonplace clearly today than they were even 5 or 7 or 10 years ago. It's very, very different scene. So
yeah, I think I recall a pro at one point saying, this was many years ago, that was like, oh yeah, my sponsor basically just gave me $5,000 and said, this is what you get this year. Spend it on however you want to travel. Like if you want to just get gas or hotels or whatever, or pocket it, your deal, but here's $5,000. Have fun for the year. And then they earned disc money.
I mean, it's weird to think about. I mean, go back to, let's say 2011, right? Discraft, Innova, and then what? Lightning? Like, what was your third company?
Legacy came out that year. Legacy.
Okay, well, then go 2 months before that. I mean, like really, I mean, with all of the expanse of the manufacturers happening in the last decade, I mean, really, and seriously, outside of Lightning, I mean, who was around in 2010?
Gateway was.
I mean,
Gateway.
No other disc of theirs was ever very popular for very long. I mean, they had things that would make a splash. The Speed Demon or whatever was like throwing a piece of metal. I mean,
Saber.
Yeah, I mean, like there was. Actually, I got a Saber. I remember as in a
player pack.
As a player pack disc, and I threw it once and just smashed it. And I thought, okay, this is my new disc. And on my second throw, I hit like the trailing lip hit a branch and fell down. And I was like, oh man, that ruined a good shot. Oh well, there's more good shots coming. And there was a hunk about this big of the under rim that was completely ripped off and stuck to the tree when the disc was laying on the ground. And I was like, well, I guess there goes the Apache. But I mean, all that to say is just that the expansion has happened over the last little bit, and purses are growing. I absolutely love that the Pro Tour was able to do $20,000 for the winner of the finale this year. It's weird to think about that prior to that, the highest purse ever was $15,000, and it's been years since that happened. I mean, all of that stuff is great, and sponsorships are increasing, and sponsors are starting to talk about things like healthcare and savings accounts and 401ks and stuff like that. That's all great. But I hope that the current crop of players that I know and respect, that they're able to get, some of that, kind of those guys, those names that you always see at tournaments, but you don't usually see raising the checks. Those are the guys that, that I want to see get a little bit extra, to make things work for them. Because at some point, if you're 25 to 30-year-old guy and you've been traveling disc golf for a couple of years and you barely have 2 pennies to rub together, and you're thinking about getting a wife or a husband, and like, you just can't do that stuff while you're on the road with no money. I mean, so you're going to have to get out at some point. I want these guys to be able to continue to chase their dream, but they're not going to be able to do that without money.
Yeah, it's we love the innovation. We've seen this van life, which still isn't cheap, but is certainly become a practical means of getting around if you have a little bit of the support to get it up and running. So we've seen a lot of the really cool steps that people are taking to make these dreams of touring much more of a reality, and that goes hand in hand with bigger payouts and everything you just mentioned. It's pretty incredible. I mean, I even also think back to, you talked about more companies. Think about, I forget the year, maybe 2016, 2017, when Latitude just went gangbusters. And I think at one point they were sponsoring over 100 players, and they had gone out and got some really big names and made a really big splash that way. And every other week there's a new company coming up, and how much they can actually afford to sponsor a player is another question. But there's a lot more opportunities coming along these days. I just think it's that, and a balance of the players that are like, well, hey, I've been playing like 2 years. I throw 500 feet and my rating's like 980. You got $10,000 to sponsor me with? And it's like, no, you're no longer, you're not elite, and you still have some proving ground to get through. And so I just think, when do people roll the dice on a sponsorship? I think is probably the toughest part right now.
Just this week, we saw the MR3 get released from RPM, Omega 4 from Millennium, and the Alpaca from Infinite Discs.
Okay.
I don't know what the alpaca does, but it sounds soft.
Watch out, they spit.
Exactly. All right. So Dixon, I think my final question maybe will be for you is, again, we referenced how much you're a sports fanatic. My question is, how big is it for you, whether it was the DDO on CBS Sports or in a week from tonight, which we'll talk about after you leave us, but a week from tonight being the ESPN2 broadcast? What do those really mean to you, if anything? Are they, a make or break? Is it a really big deal in our sport, or are some people putting it, ranking it higher than they should?
Yes, it's a big deal because it's an entry to another world for us. And maybe we get into that other world and nobody likes it, and that's fine. But at least we were there. We got to present ourselves for what we were doing. As far as this show that's going to happen next week. You had good golf on a good course between good players. It's going to be a compelling show. And I think people that have never seen discs fly, they're always amazed by how far and how accurate, because when they think about a disc flying, they're thinking, a 100-gram Frisbee that says Petco on top of it that you throw at the beach. That's not really, they don't have the frame of reference to understand a 500-foot drive to a specific location carving around trees. So to see that, I think, is a big deal. So whether or not this stop on ESPN2 is going to turn into something huge, I have no idea. But I think that the realities of what COVID has done for people wanting to get out and do things is huge for disc golf. Every company has seen an explosion in sales. Everybody that makes any accessory has seen an explosion in sales. The PDGA has seen an uptick in memberships. Local tournaments are filling faster. Those are all good things. And so this takes that thing that a lot of people are starting to wake up to, and it puts it on the screen. Now, is ESPN2 show in 2020 as important as it was in 2010? No, I don't think so. Because if somebody goes out and plays disc golf, if I want them to go see more disc golf, I've had that ability for years. Hey, go on YouTube and type this in and look at this thing. And so they can go see that. They can go watch that. When I started, I had to watch, what was the name? Not Billy Crump, right? What was it? It wasn't Nature Boy. That was the wrestler. What was his nickname?
No, it was Nature Boy.
It's Nature Boy.
That's his nickname.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking Ric Flair. So it was Billy Crump talking over people throwing discs, and it was some sort of like jam band playing in the background. And I had to find the VHS tape in order to do that. And it was one specific event, and that was it. So now, there's all of this coverage happening. There's all of these videos. There's instructionals. There's tournaments. There's individual players getting to know people, talking about their lives, their bags, their shots, all that sort of stuff. So it's good because there is a lot of people that are kind of on legacy media platforms like television, but it's not as important as it used to be, but it still gives us a new audience. And the reason that audience is important is, the Fords and the Exxons and the McDonald's and the Cokes and the Nikes. Those sorts of people are looking for places to put their advertising dollars, and if they see that that's a benefit in the world of disc golf, then that's going to trickle down into our world. Now, the interesting thing about it is, if CBS wants to pay however many millions of dollars to cover the Masters, they're not paying that money to Titleist, right? It's going into other things, and so how the manufacturers are going to be able to play into any sort of money that's coming in, I'm not sure. So that'll be interesting to see how this all plays out over the course of the next few years. But I can think back to right after I first moved down to Texas. This was I moved there right after I graduated, so December of '99. I remember playing a mini at Veterans Park in Arlington, where they just had the VPO 2 weeks ago. And I remember at that time, I went and watched a Scott Stokely clinic when he was I think he was still world champion distance guy at that point. And at that point, we were saying, oh man, we're this close. Disc golf is about to be big. We're just around the corner. We're about to get that huge sponsor. And we were all excited about it. And we were like, oh yeah, we're the next X Games. That was 20 years ago. Terry, you and I I can see, I hadn't seen you in a while. I got a little more gray hair in the beard than the last time I saw you, right? It's been a while that we've been talking about that. So is this the thing? I don't know. So I've enjoyed the organic growth, but I would sure love somebody to just drop $1 million on disc golf, spread that out over a bunch of events. And all of a sudden the top 25 guys are getting more than $1,000. They're putting gas in the tank and they're getting to the next place. And hey, they've got some extra money to spend on a hotel instead of sleeping on a couch. And maybe they're able to put away $100 into their savings account. I mean, those are the steps that we need to take. I don't think that it's all of a sudden people are going to be retiring from playing disc golf, but what the Climos did for the Macbeths and what the Macbeths are doing for the current generation, as it's building, hopefully that turns into something sustainable. And I can tell my my great grandchildren that hey, I beat Paul Macbeth at a tournament once in 2007 or whatever it was. That'll be I hope to still be part of the story for a long time.
Yeah, and then they say, but Grandpappy, that Kale guy that's on your wall, he looks just as good 40 years later. What's his secret?
I don't know what his secret is. That guy's been aggravating me since early 2010.
All right.
Kale's video of hitting that putt against Climo at the Majestic was my first disc golf video that I widely shared with everybody, and I made people sit down and watch it on YouTube. That's one of my all-time favorite disc golf videos.
Knowing Kenny, knowing Timmy Gill, Kale, and then being so close to Minnesota disc golf, I was not there for that year. I've been to quite a few of those, but I wasn't there that year. I saw that clip again just a few days ago. Somehow it popped up. It still gives me chills, gives me goosebumps for how magical that was. That was so shot by shot coverage even. I mean, they were out there filming it, of course, but that was a different world and a different time. And I just saw it a few days ago. So absolutely incredible moment. There's no doubt about that. So.
I wish it hadn't been filmed by a potato. Other than that, it's still great. I mean, for whatever, what year was that even? 2007 or something?
2005 or 6, I think.
6? Okay.
Was it 7? I think it was 5 or 6 is what I saw.
It's incredible. So I mean, you can't complain, but it's one of those classic things. I mean, like if I try to think about videos from before that, what the Kenny Berry battle at USDGC. I mean, like I can't think of really anything prior to that was a big deal for watching. Everything else, like the Billy Crump stuff. I mean, it was just kind of random tournament. It wasn't big in the sense of this is historic disc golf. I mean, YouTube started, what was it, 2006? I mean, like, so something from 2005 to have a video of and that be a big deal. That's about as far back as disc golf goes. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that Kale putt was right at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think of that video. Yeah. I think of some of the Lizard Lawyer, the instructional videos out of Michigan that still probably get a bunch of millions of views. Those are some of the original first disc golf online videos that I recall. Really like, wow, this thing look, it's online. It's got to be special.
Was that the one where Robbie Bratton was throwing up the hill at Toboggan?
Yeah, Robbie, and then I think we saw Dion
was in some of those,
Yuli
right?
And Dion was in one maybe, but yeah, but it was there was one specifically for Robbie Bratton was crushing up the hill. So
yeah, well, he lived down in Houston. He may still live down in Houston, but I played with him a lot down there, and I was always confused. I was like, why is he on a video in Michigan? Like, what is going on here? Like, oh yeah, it's because he throws a country mile. Yeah, I guess that is fun to watch.
Oh, what the internet has brought us. All right.
So Dixon, are we going to get an end of year podcast out of you? Or are you done for the season, or are we gonna? You're making notes. Are we gonna see an end of year summary out of On the Box?
Yeah, I'm starting to put that together. Basically, I'm going to take a certain number of players, and I don't know what, and say, here's the thing I think they need to work on. Here's where they can take the biggest bite out of strokes. So I'm starting to look at that. I'm starting to look at that right now. Well, here, let me throw you a trivia question. Okay. Let me figure out a way to phrase it based on what I've looked at today. If you were going to name the top 5 people in stats out of the MPO, like who do you think ranked the best in as a cumulative statistic, right? Of all of their stuff added together, who do you think was the best, or who do you think were the top 5?
Paul.
Yes.
Calvin.
Yes.
Chris Dickerson. I didn't get a yes there. Oh, geez. We're talking MPO right now, not FPO.
MPO.
MPO.
I don't know if you could put Ricky in there or not. I feel like he was rocky in some parts of the year. He definitely Eagle McMahon.
Eagle, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So those are all the obvious ones, and I'll tell you that Chris, by his statistics, doesn't belong there at all.
Wow.
His best statistic is circle 2 putting, where he's 7th. Across the 9 main U-Disc categories, Paul's averaging, or actually Calvin's the best at a 4.6 as far as ranking goes. Chris is out at 16.2. He's in the high 20s in several statistics, which is just like, how on earth is he winning these things if he's doing it? And I think some of it is, we talk about that the same way there was Raincoat Ricky a few years ago, and then, there's Final Round Chris, that he started to have these incredible 1080s and 1090s in his 3rd and 4th rounds, that he was actually putting some stinkers out there, some relative stinkers compared to the rest of these guys. But that's the kind of stuff I'm looking at is, okay, so what's the thing that Chris can work on? I mean, there's lots of categories that Chris can work on. And those top 5 guys, but between them, they're number 1 in 6 out of the 9 categories. I mean, like they hold a dominant place. So it's not going to be easy to crack that. But I mean, it's better than when it was 2015 and it was just Paul and a bunch of, also Rands. And then for a couple of years, it was Paul and Ricky, and then whoever was fighting for 3rd place. And now you've got a legitimate group of 5, 6, 7 guys that you're not surprised if they win any event. And it's not, if Paul doesn't win, it's not because he played bad. That was the story for a couple of years. It was just, oh, well, Paul messed this up, that's why he didn't win. But now it's, hey, Paul can play really good and still lose. And I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed seeing that growth.
I think the only thing Dickerson can work on is that first round score. Just get that first round score under your belt and move from there.
Yeah, if there's a fairways, like you would think, okay, Dickerson, he's just a solid guy down the middle, right? Apparently not.
Well, they need to add a slow starter category, and Dixon would be leading that, I think is what you're saying.
Dickerson,
rounds 1 and
Dixon.
2. Yeah, sorry.
I 28 round. You shut your mouth.
That doesn't. Anyway, all right. Well, Dixon, we do appreciate all the incredible insight, history, background, and insight. Give the world in a plug for where and what they can find if they're hunting down your podcast. Where can they find it? And then I think we know what they can expect now. But yeah, where can we find you?
So it's called On the Box with Dixon Jowers. Look that up on Facebook. I mean, that's the easiest way. You can find the podcast at all of your podcast locations. It's uploaded to all of those. But really, even if you don't want to listen to the podcast, come be a part of our community over on Facebook, and take part in our discussions about which Christmas movie is best, and take part in our discussions. This week we had a discussion about Christmas movies, and we had a pretty extended discussion in one of our posts about the rule change to OB about how far you can take your relief back to get an open shot. comparing and contrasting that rule. So, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that we talk about, and just come to talk about it in a reasonable manner, and disagree well with people, and you will fit right in, and have some fun with us. I like to laugh about things. I put out memes all the time about stuff. I want to talk about things that I think are enjoyable. And anybody else, lots of people post to that page. It's not just me. People will send me stuff all the time privately. Hey, you should talk about this, and I'll say, hey, you post about it. You be in charge of the discussion. I want it to be kind of like an open space, a community open space. Just think about a bunch of friends at a barbecue or something, sitting around talking about whatever.
I do like it though when I can send Dixon something and then he does post it, because I know I can't.
Yeah, sure.
There's been one or two of those, like, hey Dixon, maybe you should talk about this.
There are absolutely questions and memes that I make up and I send to Robert and Miles, and I just say, well, I probably can't post this one, and they say, yes, you're right, you cannot post that.
You are, other than maybe fake PDGA, or I don't even want to throw Murder Mike in there, you have some of the best memes, original ones out there. You tend to use like a tried and true format, but you equate it to disc golf. You bring it in. They're usually, I don't want to say wholesome, because that's not necessarily the right word, but they're respectable and they're funny. And I do enjoy a lot of your original memes that you do put out there. So,
well, thank you very much.
Give you props to that.
The ones that are not wholesome are the ones that Robert and Miles said, yeah, you can't. You can
send those to me though, so I'm okay with that.
Oh, I mean, I have a folder of things that I think are hysterical, but I can't ever say out loud.
I like to be part of that.
Welcome to my world. All right, Dixon, we sincerely appreciate you joining us tonight. Again, thanks for the insight, really on a ton of different topics, and we'll continue to make sure we push everyone over your way when they want an actual informative podcast. We can do that for you.
Thank you for the time, and hey, you boys, you do great work, and you have held the banner in disc golf for a long time, doing stuff that other people did not want to do, and people have taken they have taken the road that you have laid to get to some of the places that disc golf is right now, and not all the time do you guys get the credit for what you've done. So I appreciate the history of SmashBoxx, and like an Ozzie Smith 10 years from now, if you guys aren't still in it, I don't know if people will say, well, SmashBoxx really did a bunch of work there in the mid 2010s into the 2020s that laid the groundwork for what we're doing now. But even if they're not talking about you 10, 15, 20 years from now, I remember what you did when disc golf was really taking off in the media world. And that has a lot to do with your commitment, Terry, to be at a lot of those things, to be away from your family, for Johnny to try to do all of the technical stuff while you're still doing your job. The work that you guys do to produce what everybody thinks is just kind of average, or hey, it's just disc golf media. Lots of people do disc golf media. I know what you guys are doing behind the scenes, and I appreciate that time and the effort that you guys do.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that as well. Thank you very much. All right, Dixon, we appreciate, like we said, everything we talked about tonight. Look forward to seeing you more, and we always need those pickleball updates whenever you can provide them. The new hotbed of pickleball we know is in Emporia, Kansas, so keep giving them to us.
Big thing we're trying to pull off is me and Robert against a couple of world-class trash talkers, but average-level pickleballers in Chris Dickerson and Zach Milton. They talked a lot of trash before they came into town for the DD Open, and they found out that me and Robert were not joking around. So they may be avoiding that challenge, but it has been laid out publicly several times. So if we can ever get video of that, it will be widely shared, I promise.
Perfect. Love it. All right, pal. Have a good night. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
See ya. All right. Of course, Dixon Jowers of On the Box. Find his podcast, as he said, just about everywhere, and or join his community over there on Facebook. Now, you see a lot of chatter, Johnny. People saying, well, get on Discord, da-da-da-da. I mean, can we just be real in that no matter where you have your community in 2 years or in 4 years or in 8 years, that whole community's got to pick up and probably move, or they're going to get yelled at for saying, hey, you're not up with the most recent platform. Is that fair?
Yeah, semi-fair. My new community is on the Twitter fleets. That's all I'm showing are like basically the new Twitter stories. If you're not there, you're not going to get any of my new content. And
jeez, I'll have to check those out. Those sound mesmerizing from you. It's funny. I'll be the first to admit I did not. I heard about it. Somebody referenced them earlier today with me. I didn't know they were in the works. I'm only a very casual Twitterer. It's part of technology and it's part of social media and platforms. It just is always funny to me to see one platform dominate a space or a channel or a system, and then to see the other ones then try to either play catch up or just basically go copy it. And clearly, you worded it. You said it's stories for Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, you mean Vines? Vines, which turned to
exactly.
Snapchat stories, which then went to Instagram, which then went to Facebook, which now are on Twitter.
All thanks to Beam. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's. I will say this: I really enjoy personally. My favorite social media is public social media is Twitter. I think it's the easiest. It's a platform you get to just spew out what you want. Instagram, there's pictures, and you have to scroll through, maybe probably read some things. And I don't love Instagram. Like, it's not bad. It's great if you want. It's great for pictures.
They do say that a picture is worth 1,000 words too.
Cool, so. Great, but a picture is also it's a picture can be very vague at times. So I don't want to have to read into
words.
Something.
But,
if you're a jerk, to make it nice and clear. So I prefer Twitter, but I do love the Discord because the Discord is really a great community building area. And if you're interested, I know Smashbox has a Discord out there. Reach out; we can get you involved. If you're a Patreon supporter, you get access to a couple exclusive, and I say that because we haven't really used them. It kind of came on towards the end of the year. Areas in the Discord. But I do enjoy the Discord environments quite a bit. I'm in part of a regular disc golf one. There's a Smashbox one. There's a Foundation one, which is really big and busy. I know that's where they kind of have their community. There's a lot. There's the Ultra World one now that I'm part of, and I think that Discord is a really nice place to get all the peoples together. As I've now kind of just. I can't say I've given up, but I've really pushed away from Reddit over the last 2 months quite a bit. I still have it on my phone. I still check it occasionally, but I don't subscribe. So now if I want to check it, it's a pain. I literally have to open up Reddit, find the r/disc golf, go in there, see what's in there. I'm specifically made it a pain in my ass to check out. But I did post our most recent Smashbox video out there, which is the Paul Macbeth highlight video from 2020.
And so it's that time of the season, that time of the year. What have you been working on? Give everyone the background or the insight to that, and then what else is you're working on there?
So at the end of every year, I tend to take all the highlights that I clip during the season. So if I see something interesting, I've got one button, it clicks it, it saves it off as a highlight. It's just this generic name. And at the end of every event, there's probably, we'll say, anywhere between 30 to 50 highlights. Could be a putt, a roll away, someone putting from a knee, just anything I kind of find a little bit interesting. At the end of the year, what I did last week for quite a bit while I was stuck at home with COVID, I went through all the clips and I renamed them. So I have a list of event, year, player, shot, course, anything special that happened. It's all in the name of the file. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking those videos like I did last year and I'm creating highlight packages for our players. So no doubt the first person you start with is probably going to be the longest, Paul Macbeth. So we released that on Monday afternoon. Paige Pierce will be our next one. I've got that all in the can. It is waiting to be released. Patreon supporters get early access. I gave that to them on, I want to say it was Friday. They were able to view it and on Monday I released it. So that's probably what I'll do with Paige as well. So this Friday you can probably expect to see Paige Pierce's video in your early release option for Patreon, and then come Monday, I'm not sure when exactly Monday I want to release it. Maybe I'll talk with you, Terry, if we want to do it a Monday morning, a Monday afternoon, or Monday night release for the Paige Pierce videos, or when we want to do that. But I'll be doing them probably for a handful of pros. Everyone from, if I look at my list of, I think it was 1,144 clips, and see that you have at least probably 3 to 4 minutes worth of highlights, I will probably make an exclusive video for that player. So you'll probably see a Calvin, an Eagle, probably a Dickerson, Cat. Trying to think if there's really any other FPO players other than Paige and Cat. Last year we had Madison Walker, I know that, but Madison was off the scene this year. I'll have to take a look at what we have. And then we release with the 2020 highlight collection. So it's out there right now. There'll be a playlist on YouTube on our page that you'll be able to go out there and kind of catch all the highlights from this past year.
Sweet. And of course, with the disclaimer that those were that's all footage that was captured exclusively as part of the Disc Golf Network coverage. That was part of the live and Smashbox integration. So don't come at us with, well, why don't you have the Kevin Jones ace from the skins match at Maple Hill? Well, that's GK Pros. That was a totally separate situation. A lot of, obviously, a phenomenal shot. But just know that this is all stuff that cycled through the live, because I just, to try and thwart any of that, I think that's probably one of the first questions you're going to get is, how did you not have so-and-so's shot that, Central Coast had on the second round of the such and such tournament on third card? It's like, because that wasn't part of the live broadcast.
It's not part of what we do.
Just so everyone knows that.
And then at the very end, usually what I'll do is I'll create 2 highlight videos. One of maybe just the coolest shots that people didn't necessarily have enough shots of. So, take like an Ezra Adderhold who really came out at the end of the year. He might have 1 or 2 highlights. I kind of combine those into a big end of year grouping and a montage. And then I also have the the heartbreaker shots, the spit putts, the rollaways. There'll be one reel of those probably towards maybe early 2021. We'll probably see that come out.
Okay. Well, thanks for all the hard work. I know throughout the year it gets easier to then catalog them then. So the end of the year makes it that much more practical to put them together, but clearly still a whole bunch of work to go through them all. So I'm sure everybody thanks you for just that. Dixon quickly touched on, and I'll be the first to admit I did not fully digest it clearly as much as they did over on his page, but Dixon did touch on the fact that the PDGA rules released a few updates and information. I don't know if you have that handy, Johnny.
I do. I
know there were some clarifications that were made. I don't think we need to specifically read through any of them unless there's any major highlights that you want to touch on. But just the fact, I think I would like just to pass on the fact that they exist. You're going to probably see even more talked about or written about them moving forward. But the PDGA did make that announcement in the last few days as well.
Yeah, I looked through them the other day,
noting.
And the only one I really saw was a misplay. It says here, if a misplay is discovered after the scorecard has been turned in, the player receives, and they have crossed out 2 penalty throws, and now it's the penalty throws applicable to the misplay. So that's a little bit more specific as to whatever, depending on what your misplay was, you will get a penalty for that. Other than that, there wasn't anything that really jumped out at me. There's a whole area now for player misconduct, public display or use of tobacco items. There's a whole section 3.03, and there's some rules and question and answer clarifications out there if you're interested. But other than that, not too much this year. Nothing shocking. Everyone's still waiting for the big jump putt change that everyone knows they're going to make.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I know fake PDGA is out there asking how many foot faults were called, or if we've got foot fault footage, and or if we're going to see any jump putt information. I know Trevor Harbolt, of course, has the hashtag Step with Trevor. I know there was a conversation a few weeks ago with regard, and to be fair, we'll let's equate it or try and draw a parallel to another sport. Will the jump putt rule clarification, will that be as timeless and as endless as what pass interference in football, or like what would you relate that to? That's just something that seems like it will have a never ending specification.
I don't know. It
or,
all depends
or
on
continuous argument about.
It all depends on how it's worded. If it ever changes, and I'm saying right now, I don't know if it's going to. But as people have said, and I do agree with this, it happens. No one calls it because it's very difficult to call, and it's not so much you want to be a bad guy, but you can't be sure of it. And if you're not sure of it, you don't want to call it. So any rule that is that ambiguous, I feel like at some point has to be addressed. And whether that's, me personally, I'd love to see it as more like the 3-pointer in basketball. I've said, where you get outside a circle one or circle two.
One.
Sure, and if you want to run and jump, by all means, please go for it. If you can be that accurate with a huge jump and let go of it before it hits the ground, that's fine. But then you're going to run into that type of issue as well, where like, oh no, he jumped 6 feet and his foot touched the ground before he released. It's going to be difficult, short of telling people you can never go over or past your lie with your plant foot. And I don't think we're ever going to see that. But I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed personally. I wouldn't be opposed to getting rid of circle 1 completely, making circle 2 anything inside of circle 2 is no falling putts, and go on from there. And then anything outside of circle 2, man, you want to jump sideways around a tree? I don't care. Like, just do your thing. Do your thing. But it's, again, it has to be worded properly, or you're going to continue forever to have this sort of issue. So it might be like that, Terry.
Well, yeah, I'll be interested to see if or when, because there's just been so many rumors, so many conversations that clearly have gone on forever. The only reason I'd love to see it ultimately ended in some way, fashion, is just the fact that then there couldn't be an argument about it every weekend. And I know we'd probably just head over to some other argument or some other discussion point, maybe about it, maybe not. But that's the only reason why it has nothing to do for me about ability or the scoring, or hardly even the athletic aesthetics of it or anything like that. To me, I would just love to see the debate not happen every single weekend. And so many people get so bent out of shape on it, on both sides, about it over and over and over again. It's just, I feel like it's the equivalent of showing up on hole 1 and be like, yeah, let's start talking some politics before we tee off. Like, you might as well just, like, right off the bat.
Do you think that would throw people off their game? Can I do that? Like, oh, did you see the governor of Alabama? Yeah, let's rock and roll with that talk.
I mean, unless somebody, I guess, tells you to shut up. I mean, for some kind of excessive talking or something, or harassment, I guess. I suppose maybe you could. We'll see how that goes. So we saw that in the last week. Also, unfortunately, on a much more somber note, the Girthy family suffered a big loss this weekend. Double G, Evan, Alex, the entire family. They lost their dad in this last week. I feel like it was just a few days ago now. So love and prayer and hugs and big hug and everything else out there to the Girthy family. I think back, and I think it was referenced as well, that Double G was excited that when he got that ace at Jonesboro this year, he said that one was for his dad. And so, Johnny and I were in Florida. We were not only there in like 98, 99, 2000, where we got to see the Girthys, but they had also come to Wisconsin in 98, in July of 98. And, came up to play in the amateur, or that time amateur/junior worlds in our home state, home area, actually backyard of Appleton, Wisconsin. And the Girthys came up and were very much a crew and a force to be reckoned with as they came up and played even way back then. So knowing we have the history and of course going on to see them all become such great humans, of course, just a terrible loss. They had lost their mother many years ago, and now their father had passed away. So love to the Girthy family for sure. Also,
I was going to say real quick. I know we talked to Dixon about his win at the Northwest Arkansas Presents, but I don't think we ever talked about the open field. We talked to Katrina one.
We didn't, which I was going to ask him about it, and then somehow we got sidetracked. But yeah, go on with the open and the FPO field.
Yeah, at the Northwest Arkansas Presents, Chris Clemens wins this one by a single stroke over Nicola Castro, and on the final round, Chris shot 2 strokes better than Nico. So it looked like it was a little bit of a comeback for Chris. Tied for second, was Kale LaVisca. Fourth place was Press. Fifth place, Kevin Jones, shooting a little bit. That final round was a rough one. He shot a 1,005 rated final round. Otherwise, he was kind of, he wasn't far off of second and third place before that. Moving down to the FPO field, we see Katrina Allen, as we discussed, wins by 21 strokes over Kat Murch. And then third place is Caitlin Belty. Fourth place was Maddie Chitwood. And fifth place, fifth place didn't cash. But anyway, fifth place, Shannon Barker and Chelsea Harden. So congratulations.
And Dixon won Masters. Good job, Dixon.
Yeah. We had him on. Now we paid off our bet, and now we don't ever have to talk to him again. Just kidding. There was no bet.
One and done. Yeah. Yes. And as Ken is saying on the board, yeah, that is a solid MPO field that was, of course, present there that weekend. Obviously, there's a handful of events mainly going on, I know, in the South that still have some of these fields that people are out there still grinding it out. It's in the works. I guess I'll shoot a little exclusive out there. It's in the works that I am looking to be part of the Chain Hawk event that's taking place in the beginning of December. Excuse me. They do have a crew that is the Fox Hills crew, which does a lot of stuff in Florida. I believe is covering MPO1 and FPO1. But if it works into a few other details on my end, I might be able to scoop in and pick up a little bit of the chase card or feature card first day chase card coverage throughout the rest of that weekend. So that's something that's on my radar a few weeks out from now. Also thinking of other events that I know I've been either part of or seen. I saw just yesterday the Shelly Sharp out in Arizona. So things are already kicking up for next year's play and tour and whatnot. Shelly Sharp, one of the early A tiers taking place in the year. I believe they just opened registration, and I was literally watching registrations pile up throughout the day for people to get signed up to be out in Arizona. So big shout out to Keith and Ashley, who just celebrated her birthday. All of those guys over there at Spinners, and looking forward to some Arizona action early in January there. So good stuff. I'll
say the other thing I want to talk about real quick is we're less than a week away from the ESPN Tour Finale show. We're going to see that the DGPT Tour Finale on ESPN. If you go out to dgpt.com/ESPN, you will be able to see kind of all the information that's out there, when it airs, all that stuff. When I looked right before our podcast, like literally minutes before we were about to start, it said like 6 days and 22 hours. So in the Midwest, this will start at 7 o'clock local time, and I believe 8 o'clock probably East Coast, and then I don't know if there's a change for West Coast, if they're going to push it back or if it's going to just follow in the same timetable. So please go ahead and look it up in your local listings to find out when that is. We're going to continue to try to work on a watch party of some sort here next week at probably around 7 o'clock. So stay tuned. Keep an eye on our social media for that.
Yeah, and I believe that the Disc Golf Pro Tour is going to be making yet another announcement tomorrow. I know they're trying to foster more and more watch parties. I believe they just made an announcement about it, or they're going to, if I didn't just spoil it. But they're trying to, they want people to have these watch parties for people to get together and then, celebrate the occasion, and then, in a sense, kind of document it and share it as an entire community. So as Johnny just said, we'll do our best. We'll see what's going to be most practical for him and I to engage in a SmashBox TV watch party of sorts, and we'll keep you guys posted on that. Of course, looking forward to it. Very excited about it. I don't know if I want to share any of the spoilers from it, but it definitely should be good. Also, the real quick thing to wrap up on my end, Cold Turkey is taking place here. This is the C tier I've been running now for 15 years. And not only did I split it into 2 days so we could accommodate more people and give people a little bit more space, both days are sold out at the 72 players, both days, which is really exciting down in southeastern Wisconsin. But on top of that, I think maybe as early as tomorrow, which I said yesterday, but as early as tomorrow, I'm going to have a Flex Start C tier. So if people want to come and play the Red Fox course twice, the 9-hole course that's also there in the park, that gives you a competitive rated round to still come out and play, because you probably got shut out of the regular event. So there's the waiting list builds for both Saturday and Sunday. I don't know how much it's really going to move. So that will give you an opportunity that if you come out Sunday morning to mid-afternoon, you'll have the chance to still play one round at the Red Fox course, get a rated round and PDGA points and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I know we have a lot of Northern Illinois listeners and Midwestern listeners. So looking forward to, the full scale event as well as the Flex Start that will run simultaneously. All right, Johnny, I don't know if we've got anything else major here for our regular show. I think we could probably call it on the regular show and then see if we can come back and give everybody a little after show action. What do you think of that?
I'm okay with that.
Oh, good. I'm going to go get something to drink while we shut down. Do we have a Ace Run Productions one disc, one tip segment?
We do, but we're going to save it for next week.
Oh, okay. That works too. Okay, well, so I'm going to close things out here for us. Of course, we see the chat board. We hope that's just getting heated up, because that fuels us for the after show. We want you guys all on board, fully engaged. Even Tom McManus, PDGA 1276, low 4-digit member, Tom McManus, also head of hospitality and welcoming committee at the Cold Turkey, is the friendliest face on tour. You'll see him there next weekend. Fire up on the chat board. Give us some things to talk about, questions that you have, clarifications that we could possibly lead you in the right direction of, or completely astray, one or the other. We make no promises, but we do hope to engage and interact with you during our after show. We'd like to thank Dixon Jowers for joining us, of course, and we want to thank all of you guys for joining us in the regular show. We hope you stick around for the after show. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we'll catch you in just a few minutes in our after show when you step inside the SmashBox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBox TV's 324 After Show.
Are you ever going to come back to the studio, or are you fine at home?
Oh, gosh. If I can socially avoid you forever, no. Maybe next week. Next week seems
Well, next week makes
practical.
sense because we're going to do a watch party, so that makes sense. I think
if we have the watch party.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to set up the camera on the opposite side somehow, so they can get us while we're just sitting on the couch watching the TV. Make it a little more comfortable. I don't know. I'm going to try, but
okay. Well, quick shout out, Chris Carpenter. I'm not sure, Chris, did you super chat way at the beginning of the show as well? If you didn't, that's okay, but you did now. So we appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much. We see a ton of our regulars out there week in and week out. You guys keep coming back for more. I don't know why, but we do appreciate it. Also seeing people like Ray and Cody Garner and some fake PDGAs out there getting in on the action. So Tim, just so many of you guys, we really do appreciate it. Now, something I did not mention in the regular show, I want to lead with it right away. Just a few hours before the show tonight, I was able to release the beginning, that is, of the PCS Open. And last year, I had an incredible time. Avery Jenkins, Eagle McMahon were there and had an incredible time over there in Norway, in Vestnes, Norway. And it's even that much more special. Yeah, of course, we had to miss it this year, but it's even that much more special knowing that next year we're going to see that course and the other course that I once visited in Norway in 2013. We're going to see those two courses on the Disc Golf Pro Tour next year. So please go out, check out the footage. You can obviously check 2019 footage and you can check the 2020 footage, but check those out. That gives you a good idea of what the course looks like right now. I'm sure there's going to be some minor adjustments that will take place. For instance, I'm quite certain they won't play 20 holes next year like they did this year, where it was 2 rounds a front and back, each 10 holes. But so it will probably be an 18-hole course next year, but please make sure to go check it out. And Johnny, I think we've talked about this briefly, and I can never remember his screen name, but Christopher Hivju is the gentleman that plays Thurmond or something like that in Game of Thrones.
Tormund.
Yes.
Tormund Giants
I've watched
Bane.
exactly 0 minutes and 0 seconds of Game of Thrones. Somebody I'm sure can get mad at me for that, but 0 minutes, 0 seconds. So yeah, I only have a reference to go off of. What do you know
about the
about his character? Give everyone a little.
He's a wildling.
You know?
Yes, he's a wildling. He lives over the wall. He ends up joining up with the Night Watch later to help them out to fight the evil of the White Walkers. So I mean, he gets to he's almost spoiler. He's almost killed a few times, but as it is, he falls in love and he falls out of love. I mean, he's a pretty fun character. He plays a guy who loves life. I mean, he's a wildling, and just he fits the bill perfectly.
All right. Well, as his online, it says he's a Norwegian actor, best known for playing his roles as Tormund Giantsbane.
Giantsbane, yes.
Okay, so that is his character, and I did not know this until just now. Looks like his birthday's in a couple weeks. He's just a few months off of our age there, Johnny, born in 78. So we're just a few months older than he is. But anyway, he is on the coverage. He has not been playing disc golf that long, but he's on the coverage. You have the one in Norway's, I think she might be the highest rated woman in Norway. She was the highest rated woman at the event. In Anakin, she was there on the card. Joran, who is the owner, co-founder of PCS, so the title sponsor. He is always very entertaining to watch. I think especially back in the 2019 footage. but he is very entertaining to watch. Spoiler, he's not necessarily in contention, but he's always a fun player out there. And then Canute, who some of us saw last year, and he was there early here this year in 2020 here in the U.S. coming in from Norway. He kind of famously got the ace on hole 9, the bridge hole, during the Worlds last year with an Avery Jenkins T-bird that I think Avery had given him actually. So we'll see Canute on the lead card or on the feature card round 1 as well. So that's available. Tomorrow I'll release round 2, and then probably the day after round 3. They're all loaded into YouTube. They're all ready to go. So you can watch not only this actor play, but then of course you're going to be able to see the course that gets played in the 2021 version. So that's all. I think that's enough of a plug for now. But please go out and watch it. And plus, I don't know that we got too much new footage these days besides maybe Arkansas this weekend with GK.
Correct. I think you're going to see probably a new release every week or so for a while. Maybe we're going to miss Thanksgiving weekend and probably Christmas, but there's enough decent-sized local events where I think you're going to see a couple of rounds every given week, but nothing like we were seeing over the season.
Well, okay. Anything else jump off at you, Johnny, in the last few days in terms of what we've seen on social media with any of our players? I know we kind of already talked about contract type stuff, but has there been anything else that has been crazy? Any other people buy McLarens this week?
No, I bought 2 of them, but then I found out it was spelt McLarin, and that they were knockoffs. So I feel really taken there, and the guy can't seem to find the guy anymore. So who sold him to me? But other than that, no, I was not able to find anyone else that was able to buy some McLarens this week. We'll see.
Okay. I know she posts quite often, but I haven't seen anything lately. Where, speaking of podcasts, who of course we had Dixon on during the previous show, the regular show, any party podcasts that we've seen from Hannah Macbeth and the Disc Golf Pro Tour lately? Has anything jumped up?
No, I believe that they are kind of on a hiatus right now. I think the last time I talked to Hannah that they were still working on what they wanted to do for the format and whether they were going to do anything in the off season, but I don't believe right now there is anything planned for the party.
Okay. Also reading a few things off the board and other things I thought of. Sarah Sinclair continues to work on her YouTube channel. I know she just put out another release yesterday. A real quick little 3-minute video about approaching. Her husband Sean is kind of featured in that, so that's available for everyone to go check out. Also, Cody says Ace Run Productions has a Ricky practice round dropping soon from Hub City, so that's good to see. The Paige Pierce release, I don't think we talked about it too much last week. A release in that we saw her 991 commemorative disc kind of hit the market, but then also somebody said there was another video of her that was released, and I did not see it, so I can't speak to it. But somebody else had told me that just yesterday. I don't know how I missed it, but apparently she has something else that's been released and available. And then there was another one that I saw. Oh, Daddy Disc Golf. This is some big news. Says Daddy Disc Golf was signed to Daddy Disc Golf for another contract extension. So congratulations. I know I've heard one of them can be a real bear to deal with. So congratulations on that. Ryan Pilcher is on the board saying it's a shame DGPT can't get their podcast set up to be streamed by podcast apps. I miss listening to the Inside Line and haven't listened to the party either.
I think that's by design, honestly.
Yeah.
They could put them out on a podcasting service, but I think part of the appeal, and I'll throw that in quotes, is signing up for the DGN. Excuse me.
So
big yawn just hit me. Signing up for the DGN on for those particular podcasts, and I agree, it does make it much more difficult because it doesn't just pop up in my podcast apps. If I want to listen to them, I really need to go out of my way. You're not missing anything with the inside line. Mo hasn't really had a chance to do anything with that. The party, I listened to the first episode, and I listened to, I think, parts of the second and third. And after that, I as well kind of dropped off because it isn't just as easy as I open up my podcasting app and it just populates in there. I wish they would put them out later or something.
Yeah, I guess that would be, here's a little bit a strategic or philosophical question. Could you, after a certain point, could you see them, is there any value to releasing those podcasts after a certain expiration date? So maybe I'll just throw out a number and say June 1st of 2021. How about you take everything that was podcast in 2020 and then make those available on all the other free platforms? Maybe that could be a happy compromise.
It could be. I think that I would rather see it. I think it would be easier rather than dropping a big mass of podcasts would be to just put it out on the Disc Golf Network and then schedule it for a month or 2 months later on, for other podcasting apps so that, then you are behind, but it is still out there. And then you just kind of go from there and push them out week after week, assuming that that's what they're doing. So.
Yeah. Conversation. It's funny where they go always. Someone is saying Ricky has the jankiest van setup, tour van. Looks like things are just bungee corded together and no real good place to sleep. I don't know that Ricky, somebody can correct me. I have not been in Ricky's van. That may or may not surprise some. I don't know. Is his van set up for sleeping? I mean, or is his van truly just his mobile transportation and he doesn't intend on sleeping in it? And I honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. But if it was set up as just his vehicle along with storage and to get from place to place, that wouldn't, maybe that would answer the question. Excuse me, that he's not necessarily trying to sleep in it. I see that he's set up in Arizona right now. Yeah, he's going to be there I believe the entire off season. When Ricky goes from place to place, I don't know that sleeping in his van is typically what he's been trying to do. And again, I might be dead wrong on that, but I think of every time I've seen him or his van, he's using it just as a means of transportation of goods and wares and such, and not necessarily that he's sleeping in it. Other questions are has Kevin Jones built out his van yet? I think there was conversation about that right after the Tour Championships as to whether or not you're going to see something like that. Because I know Luke Humphreys had his van as well. And I think that continues to be exciting. And we've said it before, Johnny, they can all learn from one another.
It
Nate Perkins
evolves.
Yeah. They all continue to watch what the other person, either made the mistake or did really right. And then all of them have slightly different priorities in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. Alyssa Van Lannen's van doesn't need to do the exact same stuff that Paige's does because they have a different outlook when they get to a tournament as to what they have to do. So just as a quick note off the board, you haven't seen or heard of any continued conversation or further conversation about PDGA podcast replacements, have you?
No, we haven't. I think if we're going to see anything like that, it probably won't be until next year, which is why, we always say we're the official podcast that the PDGA employees listen to.
Good. Yes, that's what we're here for. Cody says on the board, I'd like to think out loud about having a series of B and C tiers that are stated to be fundraisers for certain majors and NT events to create much more payout. 50 events per major. Somebody could do that. You just have to then set the expectations that when you're running these events, there's a certain minimum payout that has to be required that's given out at each of those events. And then everyone that's playing in those events, it should be very clear to them that the goal is to be a feeder series or a feeder series of events that are then trying to populate another big event. And some people may not be down with that. I mean, yeah, obviously I think you have to be 100% transparent about it, but some people may not be down with that. I think of, hey, I want to go play these 10 events by this TD, and all 10 events are all just to benefit this other event that I'm either can't play in or I'm not part of or have no interest in. I guess it just always comes back to what are you trying to get out of your tournament experience? Could that be done? Sure. I mean, you know, even in Wisconsin, for instance, we're in 30 years practically of our Wisconsin Tour series, where it's a series of 10 or 12 or 15 or 18 events all year long. And then we have a finale at the end of the year where a little portion of that money from every event is then helps feed into the purse at the final event. But the final event is really meant as a celebration slash party, reunion type event. And it's actually a little less stressful than the individual events. So I think just being clear with your objective and goals, and if people really want to be part of that. Johnny,
I don't know.
You've never technically TD'd an event. You've of course helped me and helped
Correct.
others. You've never TD'd an event. Is it time?
I've thought about it, but then I think,
what
do I really want to?
what
Honestly,
would your event?
Yeah, like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of prep. It's there's so many things. If I were to do one, I would probably start out with like an unsanctioned event or something like a C tier, something along those lines at a fun course. But I just don't know if it's in me. I enjoy helping out. I enjoy more so. What I enjoyed the most was usually like the night before an event, back before when like, you'd have to get together and write names on scorecards and people would hang out and do whatever. There's a little less of that in this day and age, as things are usually done well ahead of time. It's not so much a night before event. And I don't mind helping out during the event, counting scorecards and putting scores in on cards and organizing and sorting. But no, I've never actually run an event.
I was just going to say, and this goes back briefly to the cold turkey in a couple of weeks. Hey, I've got to do an online players meeting, which I've actually been doing those for a couple of years, just because they can be fun. So you do that ahead of time. But B, this will be my first time using an all-exclusive digital scorecard system through the PDGA. And I am really genuinely excited about that, because the number one bottleneck in disc golf tournaments, and this is anywhere ever prior to digital scoring, was getting the scorecard, verifying the scorecards, and then posting those to the board and then shuffling the board. There's just no other bottleneck like that. Namely, specifically being the double checking, like turn in your scorecard and then somebody else has to verify it and double check all those scores. All of that, almost all of that's eliminated from a tournament director's perspective. Now, of course, they have to shuffle some things and then get things adjusted slightly on the back end of the PDGA tournament manager.
Sure.
But I am so excited to do it for my first time, utilizing the tools to their full potential. That should be a lot of fun. And then having everybody has live scoring. How cool is that? I mean, just think of the prestige maybe and the what it used to be that only UDisc, who's obviously really helped set the stage, and the PDGA has had live scoring for a long time.
Live.
But to have the live scoring for every single player, essentially every single group in an event, broken down by division, so everybody could be sharing that no matter what division you're playing. I think that's pretty exciting.
Well, I'll be looking forward to it. I know I signed up originally to play. Well, technically, yeah. And I had to withdraw last week because I think I'm going to end up in Florida that first week of December and possibly leaving the last weekend of November. But I will be looking forward to seeing how the scores come in and how the live scoring works out for you guys. I know a lot of people really enjoy it. We're seeing on the board, a lot of people are saying, wow, it makes the TD job so much easier, that it's really enjoyable because you can follow people that you know are playing and this and that. I'm looking forward to it. And I know, speaking of UDisc, I saw that they released a statement today basically saying that they're looking for help as well. They're looking for kind of what the PDGA is looking for, a full stack programmer, I don't say volunteer, but also anyone that knows kind of programming that can help out freelancer, nerdy stuff. So if you're into the nerdy stuff, reach out to
a certain style
PDGA.
of nerdy stuff. There's a lot of nerdy stuff out there.
If
Let's
you're into
be
the
real,
nerdy programming stuff, reach out to UDisc and the PDGA.
I mean, because if it's just Dungeons and Dragons, like you could be right there, right? No, you played though.
I have played exactly one, maybe two session of Dungeons and Dragons my entire life. It was at a birthday party for my friend back in, I think our first year of high school, which was for us 10th grade. I think we did that. I think we went in someone's house and we played D&D. But that was just never really a thing for me personally, because I didn't have most of the friends I hung out with did not play that, did not do D&D type stuff. We were much more along the lines of, we played a lot of poker, we played a lot of cards growing up in high school. But there was one particular birthday party where, a group of my friends and that they played. So I was never really a D&D person. It looks like fun. I would do it. It was just wasn't my thing back then.
Okay, well, Paper, Plastic, Sports, and Games has other things to say. Scott, I hope you're doing well out there. Good to see you on the board. Did you see, and apparently this wasn't the first, and here's maybe why I chuckle. Did you see any of the notifications, or maybe you received one, I don't think you did, from Boulder Brothers and the Birdie board game in the last few days, Johnny?
I saw that they released the expansion pack for Birdie that was shipped. I know our Smashy, Mr. Ryan Pilcher, said he received 2 copies of the game, and that he got 2 copies of the first game as well. And so I think that distribution maybe was not on point.
Yeah, so I think the story, and Ryan, who's on the board, can probably clarify a little bit more because only I saw this in passing. But basically, I think I saw a post that said, hey, if you received a second expansion pack or more than you should have, could you please send it back to us? And then that did not happen to you or I with the ones that we got. So that wasn't a problem. But then as I scrolled up a little bit, I saw that it also said, hey, if you receive 2 packs of our game, could you please send one back? Apparently, this is the second time that the distribution channel has shipped out duplicate orders.
It's frustrating because it looks really bad for Birdie, whether or not it's their fault or not, I don't think they were distributing them personally, but it happens once, shame on you. It happens twice, shame on me. I mean, that's tough because that's going to cost them a good amount of money.
Yeah, because naturally you have the people that are more than willing or anxious or able to go ahead and send it back, which is going to cost money. And then there's people who are saying, like you just said, well, yeah, enough with the mistakes, I'm keeping it. And so be it. Of course, I would encourage everyone for the sake of supporting a small business and for forgiving someone for an error or a couple of errors. I think it would be in the best human interest to do your best to get it back to them.
Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. It was a mistake. Send it back. Ryan Pilcher says that they're gonna send return labels. Don't be a dick and keep it. It's pretty simple.
I think some of the frustration has just come from the fact, which I didn't know either, but that this isn't the first time it's happened. So we of course would encourage everyone to send it back and help them. Is the term mitigate their the losses and the challenge that's already come about by doing so?
Correct.
Best of luck to you guys. And for the record, Johnny nor I received any duplicates or any additional boxes that were.
I didn't even get the expansion pack. I was thinking about. I thought about buying it, but then it passed me by, and so I might actually get it after the fact. I'm sure they'll have a few extra ones for sale. Or I can talk to Ryan Pilcher because I think he has 6 of them. So
he just keeps racking them up. Ryan says the first time it happened, they let people keep them, but asked them to optionally pay $20 if they could, but it wasn't required. So that's what the first time that went around. And now the second one, I don't know if they're offering it at a discounted rate just to keep it. Obviously, I think that would be a great idea for them to make that offer. But gosh.
For those of you that
I think
follow
they are
us,
working on their second game.
Yeah, I believe they are. For those of you that follow us on social media, you saw this weekend that SmashBoxx was part of a local Milwaukee fundraiser here. There's an organization that my wife works for called Gigi's Playhouse that works with people with Down syndrome, and they do an annual fundraiser called the Brouhaha every year. Normally, they rent out a place, get a bunch of people to buy tickets, come in, drink beer, do raffles and things like that. Well, obviously in today's day and age, you can't really do that right now. So everything was virtual. So my wife turned to me and asked if SmashBoxx could help out. So we provided the back end for their streaming service and organized all of that. So I put it out on social media. So if you happen to catch some of that, maybe tune in just for a few minutes. Awesome. If you actually gave some money, even more awesome. There was a local comedian named Pat McCurdy, who's, if you're from the Midwest, if you went to college anywhere in the Midwest, you probably at one point saw a Pat McCurdy show anywhere from Wisconsin to Chicago to Iowa or Minnesota. I believe he's pretty well traveled in these states. He recorded a set for the show that was relatively funny, and he records those out of his garage every week apparently. And so he ended up providing one of those. But so if you happen to catch that, awesome. Thanks a lot for any support that anyone out there may have given, whether it was just a view or a donation. I haven't asked my wife if she didn't recognize any of the donation names yet. I don't know if she has all that data, but we were part of that. So if you have a company and you want to run something like that, reach out. Maybe we can help.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Of course, the organization your wife works for and the cause, and of course, thank you to you as you did all the legwork on the back end to make that happen. Would it be a fair comparison to say like Pat McCurdy is a lesser known like Weird Al Yankovic? If somebody wanted to draw somewhat, is he kind of along those lines? Is that a fair? Would that be a fair comparison?
You could probably say that. I would say he's more like a Tenacious D in that all his songs are original. It's usually him and just an acoustic guitar playing songs, and he has, like he was saying, he's got a new album coming out that he wrote all during the pandemic, and it's they're humorous songs. They're not cover songs though, like Weird Al. I mean, Weird Al does some original songs, and he has his thing, but Pat is virtually all original music on his own, and he's a comedian, singer, songwriter kind of guy, and it's when you the first time you see him, he's very, very funny. And then you realize you get his shtick, and you're like, okay. And there are some people that love, and I think Pat McCurdy's a very funny guy, very talented. I've seen his show a handful of times, whether it was Summerfest or a local festival where you happen to be walking by, you're like, oh, look, Pat McCurdy's playing on stage.
Or a Thursday night college dorm, gathering or show that he puts on. Yeah.
I don't go to those anymore, Terry. I don't know about you. I'm 42 now. I don't
when
know
I've
what
been
you're
in the
doing.
back of the
I'm
room
41.
watching, I see you way up there. You're 42.
But some of the best part was I got to set all this up. Originally, we were going to record it live. He was going to come in and we were going to do a live recording. So it was with a really, really small studio audience. But with a lot of the COVID stuff, there just wasn't the comfort level right now. So I got to work with some of his manager and thing. And I feel like it drops straight out of the 70s. Like there's Pat McCurdy, and then there's, I believe, his manager, which is Fat Murph, and his sound guy, Pipe Jim.
Of course.
I mean, I laughed so hard when I got the email because he wanted to make sure, hey, now that we're going to send you this, I need you to let me know what exactly I need to send you. And I'm like, okay, I need this format and this and whatever. He's like, okay, yeah, my sound guy, Pipe Jim. He knows, he works with all of that stuff. Don't sweat it. I laughed so hard, and it just kind of fits the whole music industry in that era. Because I bet you he's probably in his early 60s now, upper 50s to early 60s. So it's I laughed quite a bit while going back and forth, thinking, okay, I need to send an email to Fat Murph. He's going to send me to Pipe. He's going to send me to Pipe Jim to make sure that we have all the equipment that we need. And it just shook my head. So,
now it's making me want to take a look here. He's a step ahead of you and I. He's got a Wikipedia page.
He does. It
says years active from 1977 to present. Anyway, so good old Pat McCurdy. Very cool to see and to be part of that. A couple other things that were cool. I know we mentioned, of course, that Will Schustrick and his wife Trish had their very, very light weighted son. I believe just like 1 pound 3 ounces maybe, or 1 pound 5 ounces. And Trish had made a post today saying that I think it was today or yesterday, saying that she got to hold him for the first time. So very, very cool. Of course, they have a very long road, as I think he was supposed to be born in mid to late January. So of course, very, very early arrival there. But we of course hope everything continues to go well on that end. So I saw that, which was pretty cool. Also, I know early we gave some props to Katrina, of course, out there playing really well and taking down some of these A tiers and B tiers that she's been at over these last few weekends. Steve Rico also on a little bit of a roll. Steve Rico,
140th win, right?
140th. I was there for his 137th just a few weeks ago in Vegas, and then he or 138th. He picks up a couple more wins, and I think that's 3 consecutive weekends that he's played. 3 tournaments that he's played, and 3 tournaments he's walked away the winner in the Open division. Of course, he's eligible for that. We talked to him about that. He's eligible for Masters, where he started out really well this year, taking down the Memorial in 40, and then losing in a playoff, I believe, in Vegas the week before. So did pretty well there. But the last 3 weekends, he has now the last 3 events he's taken them down. So I think he won the Tree Bash in Open by a single stroke. He won in Vegas. I was there for that. He won that. He won it by a couple, but he was tied going into the last hole. And then this last weekend, 2 weeks ago, he had a playoff with Chris Kesselhoff that he wins in overtime. And then this last weekend, he wins by a single stroke as well. So he's won like the last 4 tournaments he's played by a total of like 6 strokes. But
win is a win, man.
I am not downplaying them at all. It's just been pretty incredible, the golf he's been out there playing. So congratulations, Steve Rico, good friend of the show, and pretty incredible. So, all right, Johnny. I don't know that I have a heck of a lot for the world. I don't know if you have anything else crazy we need to touch on.
All I have is just a giveaway. Our Patreon supporters. We have to give something away by obligation for our Patreon supporters. If you want, we love, and it's not an obligation. Well, it is.
I'm obligated to a lot of things, but
It is an obligation, but it's something we enjoy being obliged to do.
Of course.
Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. If you'd like to be a supporter, you can do so there. For as little as $1 a week, you can be entered into our wonderful. Actually, I think it's $1 a month if you really want to get thing, but we prefer $1.
You really want to be cheapo.
Yeah, if you want to be a cheapskate, but we prefer, $10 a week. But if you can't do $10 a week,
$1 a month works.
$1 a month will work. Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Sign up. It's too late right now. If you sign up at the $3 level, you're not going to get the yearly disc because that would not be fair for us or anybody else. But we are working on that right now to make sure that we get those out, hopefully shortly after the beginning of the year. But you can be eligible if you sign up for the $3 level to get next year's exclusive Patreon supporter disc. Anyway, we have 198 people eligible for our giveaway this week. Terry Miller, what number do we want to give away?
Ooh, well, Steve Rico got his 140th win.
Dixon's 140 years old.
Cat won by 140 strokes. So I say we go with the fourth number.
All right, the fourth number. Our first number is 179. Second number is 181. Third number is 28. And sorted by email address this week, our fourth and final number is 161. Let me bring this up. I need to scroll down to the bottom. Scott Wright. Congratulations, Scott Wright, out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota.
Nice. I think it would be logical that Dixon Jowers is a Dynamic Disc sponsored player.
And he will send them a disc.
Right out of his bag. The winning putter. He's a DD. Yeah. He is a DD player, all part of the team trilogy, of course, integrated. And I believe I have a maybe even here in my office, I have a Gladiator, a Tear Bear Disc Golf Guy stamped Gladiator that is a trilogy related product. We just had Rusco last week, so I think that makes sense that I send out a Gladiator to did you just say the name was Scott in Minnesota?
Scott in Minnesota.
All right, well, I will get that sent out to him, and I'm going to go full-blown shameless plug here tonight.
Go figure.
I can. Yeah, I know. Well, if you guys are sticking around, you're just begging for a shameless plug. If I can find one. Hold on. Yeah, those are Frisbees and boxes full. I'm going to hustle some cardboard. No, I want everyone to know this is my disc in a box. This is a shipping solution that me and another guy came up with a couple years ago. This box can be folded so that it can either hold one disc if you're shipping just a single disc, or if you're shipping either 3 drivers or 2 mid-ranges, they all fit into this box. And not only will it protect you and the disc, but if you're shipping 2 discs, you can ship them for under £1. And some people are like, who cares? What the hell are you talking about? That's crucial, because when you go from 15.99 ounces to, say, 17 ounces, you're automatically going to go into from first class to priority shipping, and you could get charged as much as $2 to $3 more. So just because of that 1 ounce. So when these were designed to protect your discs that you're sending to your friends and family, when these were designed, it was so that you could ship up to at least 2 discs so that they will still come in at the first class rate. And 1 disc in this box is 9 ounces, just so you know. So anyway, I offer these along with bags, 2 mil, 4 mil bags. If you follow or collect or hustle discs at all, you know exactly everything that I'm talking about. If you don't, then I'm just rambling on about some cardboard. But believe it or not, these are super good value, and I sell them by the 100 count cartons. So reach out if you need them. Some people have, and that's why I wanted to make mention of it again. Somebody reached out a couple weeks ago, and then immediately wanted to jump on some because they protect your disc when shipping them from person to person. And I think the coolest part about it, besides all those other features, is they're made of cardboard, so they should get a couple of uses in them versus the people that are sending them in, the bubble mailers, which I used for many years with cardboard backing. Here, when somebody gets this box should probably be intact, and then you could turn around and pack up that disc that you lost to your buddy on a bet. You could pack that up and recycle the box, which I would obviously totally encourage you to do, even if it loses out on profit margins for me, because you don't buy as many. The environment's more important.
I think that Smashbox will be buying quite a few of them in the next month from you, Terry Miller.
Yes, and good thing is Smashbox, which is separate from the company that makes these, which is me. You get it. Smashbox gets a discounted rate, a real good discount.
Is that like one of those reverse mortgages that I hear about?
I could get you into a carton of these boxes. No, but in all seriousness, if you receive a box from us, from the Patreon disc or from the weekly giveaways, more often than not, it's coming in one of these boxes. And I just wanted to let you guys know. Some people are like, assume I get those from some other place. I don't. I make these. I get these made. So, all right. It'll be at least a week before I make that plug again. We are going to call it. We got to thank Dixon Jowers, of course, for joining us in the regular show. We want you to go out, watch the PCS Open footage, watch the recap that Johnny's putting together on our Smashbox page. And then next week, you're going to get us a little earlier than normal because we're going to release all the information and the details to give you guys the ESPN2 watch party, 7 p.m. Central. And it couldn't be any more perfect. It starts at 7, ends at 9. SmashBoxxTV podcast starts at 9. So if you were like, gosh, if I could only get those guys for like 5 or 6 hours in a night, next week is your lucky night. We're going to have extra giveaways. Oh, I'll ship them in this box. All right, guys. For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we love you. We love our Patreon supporters. Each and every one of you, all of our subscribers, all of you that tune in and week out. We appreciate all of it. This has been podcast 324. We'll see you next week for the ESPN2 broadcast when you step inside the Smashbox.